Hello, how are you? Let me just cover this. My name is the Dank Duchess. I'm a hash maker based out of Oakland, California. I happen to also be a cannabis cultivator for about 17 years. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit of why you should grow your own and make your own. Okay, so cannabis. Cannabis is like the hottest thing. We see the UN has now recently voted that cannabis is going to be pulled from its most dangerous list of drugs, and therefore they see the value in the medical value of it. Of course, those of us who have been involved in the cannabis industry have known this for a long time. We have both anecdotal evidence, we have scientific evidence, but we're going to take all our W's wherever we can get them. So yay, yay, yay. Thank you to the UN. With that being said, and with there being more than 13 states that are really pushing cannabis for recreational and medical use, and we have medical use all across the United States, I have to say, if you live in a state where you can grow your own, please do grow your own. And let me give you a couple of off the cuff reasons why. Okay. When you're buying cannabis, and whether you're using cannabis for alleviation of some sort of situation, some problem, or just to feel good, you want to get exactly what you want. You don't go to a pizza store when you wanted steak. You don't drink milk when you want water. So it's really kind of crappy when you go to have some cannabis and it's not exactly what your endocannabinoid system wants at that time. So rather than thinking of indica versus sativa, which is a nomenclature, sorry, my kitty might be trying to get to this, which is a nomenclature that's really doesn't really it really doesn't suffice any longer, mainly because the idea behind what an indica feels like, and a sativa is like this. Guess what? There are many indicas that have you a little bit raised, going crazy, and sativas that have you mellowed out. It's all based on the cannabinoid ratio, the flavonoids, and the terpenoids. So all of those things affect our ECS, our endocannabinoid system, in a particular way. And for that reason, you got to know what you're getting. You can't just say, I'm smoking some weed. What you doing? Oh, I'm smoking some weed. Yeah, that's not really going to work. That's really not going to work. So step one, or first thing, you get to know what you're smoking. All right. Next thing, let me tell you a really quick little story. So I just came back from Colorado. I'm not going to name any names. But I just came back from Colorado, and I went to a dispensary. As a grower, I pride myself on not being a cussy because I grow cannabis and I know what's going in my body. But I did want a solventless rosin cart, rosin slash solventless, because rosin is solventless. But you know, uh, the problem came here. So I asked for a solventless cart, and I asked for a rosin cart. I asked for those two things at the same time. I bought something. I was in a rush. Came back here to California. Didn't even need to use the cart. And then when I started to pull on the cart, I said, this doesn't taste exactly what I'm looking for. And I looked at the box and it said CO2. See, CO2 is not solventless. CO2 is solvent free. There's a huge difference when you're dealing with concentrates. There are three main distinctions. You have solvent, solventless, and solvent free. Solvent is stuff like what people typically call dabs, which really is a misnomer because dabs are just dabbing is an action, and you dab it. Dabbing is an action of concentrates. So dabs are just concentrates. So you can have solventless dabs, solvent dabs, and solvent-free dabs. But BHO, PHO, anything that looks like that, golden wax, crumble, really yellow and really bright, that's generally going to be solvent. Solventless is going to be dry sift, charas, or bubble hash, and rosin. Dry sift, let's go with charas. Charas comes from looking at a plant like this. Let's say this plant was flower. First of all, let's say this plant was a girl. This is a guy. Problems. Let's say your plant was a female. And what happens is that when the plant is budding and you're making charas, you walk by and you rub hands up and down each stalk to get a layer of resin in the hand, and then you collect that and then you smoke that. Ooh, super, super nice. That's the original concentrate. That's charas. After that, you have, or not after that, but besides that, you have bubble hash. That's ice and water added to, or plants being added to ice and water, and through agitation, what is left is just the resin heads. So that's bubble hash. You also have dry sift, which is taking plants that are really, really dry and crumbling them using a series of sieves, very much like in bubble hash, using a series of sieves to separate the crap from the really good resin. And then you have rosin. Rosin comes in two types, which is flower rosin, which is taking a plant, just taking a bud and squishing it. You can squish it with something like as innocuous as a flat iron, or you can get a whole rosin press totally dedicated to making rosin. So you can, this idea is you can literally take a bud, put it in parchment paper, squish it, you have oil, and then you can take dabs. That's lovely, right? That's one type of rosin. And then there's hash rosin, where you take either bubble hash or dry sift, put it in a mesh bag, squeeze it, and then you get the oil. Again, fantastic. All of those are solventless, and then there's solvent free. Solvent free is the idea that something started as a solvent, and then by the end of the process, there was no solvent left. So you can have solvent free. Distillate is solvent free. Distillate has numbers like 99% THC. That's because distillate started off generally as BHO, so a butane hash oil process, where butane was blasted over the buds, and then all of the oil was extracted in that way. The butane was then vacuumed off, and then what was left was the extraction of whatever type. After that, that can be further distilled until there are no, I mean, definitely no plant waxes, no lipids, no terpenoids, no flavonoids, no nothing. All there's left is just THC. There are benefits to having isolates like that. I have a tendency not to deal with those because I don't have any of the issues, MS, cancer, all the types of things that isolates can affect. I'm not thankfully dealing with, so I don't like that. I want to have the full experience, and that's going to include all the flavors, all the smells, all of what makes cannabis be cannabis. CO2, while not particularly noxious, it's still used as a solvent in making solvent free. By the time the CO2 process is done, there's no more CO2, so therefore it's solvent free. I tell all this story to say that concentrates are really taking over the market, and but there's still such a lack of understanding that when I asked for a solventless cart, I was given a solvent free cart. And as a hash maker who does appreciate rosin, I could tell, and I was not too happy about it. You know how that doesn't happen? When you grow your own and you make your own. Okay, so I'm back to the idea of growing your own. So you grow your own for the purpose of knowing what you're putting in your body, like whether it's going to affect you well. You grow your own or make your own for the purpose of making sure no one slips past you on the okey doke. If all the hash that I consume, I know what's in it because I make it. I make my own. I grow my own and I make it. Another so that's a big thing right there. And also, I looked at the box. Do you know what kind of, oh my gosh, the pesticides list was just blew my mind. My plant, this plant right here, has been grown with water, BioLive as a soil amendment, and vermicompost. That's worm poop. That's made this plant. Worm poop. All organic is the way that I go. Everyone has their way of doing stuff, but I figured, this one existence I have, I'm dealing with a Ferrari. I'm not trying to put 87 gas in it. And so if you're going to go and spend the time or spend the money to ingest cannabis and you want to have the best experience, you really can't argue for non-organic cannabis. You cannot argue that you can argue whatever you want, but in good logic, you cannot say that the best thing that you're going to have put into your body, into your brain, has 8 million syllables and you have no idea how it can be stored because it's so dangerous. These are things that are like, I mean, this is really important. This is really important. So if you don't want to be ingesting all of those pesticides, even if you don't want to be ingesting all the salts that are given to plants to really boost them up, you want it to be as natural as possible, grow your own, make your own. I feel like I've gotten a lot with that one. And then from a spiritual standpoint, look, I'm growing 4 clones right now. They were my friends, but I really like to grow from seed. Okay, you grow from seed because you want to be the person to find something special. You want to start it from the beginning. The value of growing from clone is you know exactly what you're dealing with. For one, You're not going to get any of these boys unless you have some sort of situation in your growing environment where your plants are going to herm. Most people don't know that cannabis is a hermaphroditic plant. Cannabis can be a boy, cannabis can be a girl. That's just how it is. What we have now are lines where you I'm sorry. What we have now are lines that can be more predominantly female. Not that anyone can be more predominantly male, but can be more predominantly female. You can have feminized seeds and such like that. But if you want to know for a fact that what you're getting is a girl, you get a clone. That means a plant. Let's say this was a girl. A plant which one of these uh, stalks is gone cut off and then rooted, and then you suddenly have a new copy. There's great value in that. You know what you're getting every time around. But for me, problems. For one, those 4 clones I told you that I'm growing, I have brought them over the brink, but they came with some problems. They came with some bugs. So I had to make the decision to bring into my garden the idea that I might have bugs. Thankfully, I'm not dealing with that. That has been addressed. But when you're dealing with clones, you're dealing with the good practices and the bad practices of whoever you got your clones from. So good practices and bad practices. So if that person has been dedicated, has a clean space, and you feel like you can trust them, then that's great. But a lot of people are growing haphazardly, don't clean in between their grows. It's all about making the money. So yeah, perpetual harvest not done well and stuff like that. And then you end up with plants which are a little flagging along, and then you have to decide whether you're going to put the energy into that to get them better, or if you're going to start from scratch. I have a tendency to like to start from scratch for a couple of reasons. This is poison peaches. I was in Oklahoma. No, not true. I was in Oklahoma, but that's not it. This guy from Oklahoma came. A good friend of mine, Jace, he had come to do a class with me in January, and then he came back to do a class with another hash maker named Bird, and he brought me some seeds. And one of them he brought was poison peaches, which was delicious. And there's nothing quite like having smoking some cannabis, it being fantastic, getting seeds, and knowing that somewhere down the line you will also be able to bring forth that kind of magic, or you will be able to help nature along with that kind of magic. As soon as I smoked that poison peaches, I knew I wanted seeds, and he brought some seeds for me. And this is how I'm showing my care for him by growing the beauty that he has created, right? So the amount of time that I spend in there being open with my heart, that is spiritual growth. That is bringing my brain and my body back into homeostasis. So the cannabis is affecting me and my ECS without me even smoking it, just being around the cannabis. I mean, look at this beauty. This is, what is this? This is a Super Lecker #2 cross with Panama Air. I mean, there's just so many stories that come with growing, and it's a relationship to have. This Super Lecker, I grew Super Lecker back in 2017 on the roof of my building. I had 40 plants on that roof. I mean, it was just, I really blew it out, something crazy. Then I took clones, and I had a beautiful Panama Air plant that was variegated. So it was like half white, half green, super gorgeous. I did some mating. I never call anything like that breeding. You have to give respect where respect is due. The breeders put their time into creating generations of stable lines before they're presenting, seeds to you. Me, I'm pollen chucking. I'm just like taking some boys, taking some girls, they make the little sex, and then, I have some seeds. I'm going to be very, very honest. Whereas I know I've grown for a while, breeding is not what I do, but I did get this beautiful Super Lecker cross. Super Lecker was originally from Marimberos from Colombia. And back in 2006, 2016, I started my Spanish collecting, really taking a lot of seeds from, oh my gosh, have you mentioned that? Getting seeds, getting seeds from one place that you don't usually see them, and having crossing them with some California lines, just so I can have something different, just so I can have something different. And now look at the size of this baby right here, right? Those who are just tuning in, again, all I'm talking about is the value of growing your own and making your own. So this is a boy. I'm a little sad about this boy because because he was a boy. And I'm actually not in a position or have a desire to really make seeds. I literally have thousands right now, and I don't think that I have any females that I really want to do anything special with. So this boy, I mean, it's not that he lives for no reason. He just is not going to live out his all his ball hanging glory, unfortunately. I will be eating him. I will just chop him all up and put him in my smoothies and perhaps in some pesto as well, because he is chock full of raw cannabinoids. See, whereas when we smoke cannabis, we are taking in the active version. So when I smoke some weed, that's TH. My THCA has been changed to THC. Buds on cannabis plants, this buds like this, all of this is TH. It's so California. It's THCA. The good majority of it is THCA. When you look at a if you look at a lab report for about a strain, you will see that the THC amount is actually very, very small. We're talking like 6, 7% for real. But the THCA might be much, much, much higher. So you're looking at like, oh, look, we're finding out the THCA is 26%, 27% of the weight of the sample. What happens is when heat and time are introduced to THCA or CBDA or CBGA or CBVA. You see where I'm going with these A's. These acid groups fall off, and what we're left with is THC. And what is lost is 0.12% of the weight. That is what's lost. Oh, well, thank you, Gabby. That is what's lost, right? So the THCA is converted to THC. However, THCA is amazing for my body. Anti-inflammatory, neurogenesis, all of that. So it's not like you have to ingest cannabis by smoking it and in order to get the benefits of it. Besides edibles or anything else where not intoxifying, but anything that changes the mindset in that way. Besides that situation, you can ingest a whole lot of raw cannabinoids to address problems like rheumatoid arthritis, gout, again, inflammation, anything where our body is really being out of stasis. And that comes from an excess of cortisol. That comes from a lack of exercise. That comes from an imbalance with the foods that we're eating. Eat some of these boys. And this is why I don't feel bad when I make boys. People tell me, oh, Duchess, why don't you just sex them earlier so you don't waste the time? I don't feel like I wasted time with you. We had a good time, right? Every day I would come to you and I would say good morning, but once he started hanging out his balls, then I was like, ooh, that's not so fun. And when I say hanging out his balls, I'm not meaning to be vulgar, maybe just a little bit, but it literally looks like little balls. So when you want to tell the difference between, I'm sorry for those of you who totally know this, but if you don't, if you want to tell the difference between a boy and a girl, what happens is that boys actually have what look like, let me put you down, baby, what look like little balls, just like this. They look like little balls, and they become little clusters, which look like hanging bananas. And the females have these little white hairs that come out of a little structure, and you can tell. I mean, it's not a situation where it's just like, is that a boy or a girl? Once you know what a boy looks like, little balls, and a girl looks like just a nice white just wisp of hair, then you know what you're dealing with, right? So this boy, he's a boy. He's not going to make any of my girls pregnant, and that's a big issue. A lot of times people leave their boys in the garden, and they're not realizing how important it is to get rid of your boys, because your girls don't have to be in full flower, your boys don't have to be fully mature in order to get them pregnant. And there's nothing quite like thinking that you have grown a whole bunch of sinsemilla, and sinsemilla stands for without seed in Spanish. You think that you've grown a whole bunch of just super dank ganja, and the calyxes have swelled up super big and everything, and you know what, they're full of seeds. And the problem with that is that if she has put all her energy into making seeds, she has not put nearly the amount of energy into trichome production and things like that. Besides the fact that you don't want to smoke cannabis with seeds in it, even if you're making hash, often the hash is not going to be as good. I say often and I'm never going to say never, because someone like Cuban Hash Queen and Cuban Grower, undisputed kings and queens of dry sift, started off their career totally working with seeded material and just winning cups left and right. So, like again, I said often, but if you have phenomenal plants and the phenomenal touch, this might not apply to you. All right. So I just talked about the fact that you know what you're smoking, in terms of that it's going to be good for you, if it has chemicals that are going to be terrible for you, and the experience of growing it yourself and that connection. Okay, I didn't really talk about it. The connection that you have with your plants, it really transcends anything I can really explain besides just knowing that you've helped bring life along. I'm not a mom. I have cats. I've got plants. And I have to say, this is the closest I'm probably going to feel to that type of that caregiver type of feeling. And there's nothing like it. Stress is lowered, a feeling of oneness with the plant, and an understanding of the importance of being present. All of that comes into play with growing. I mean, we have the pandemic going on, right? Unless you've been living on the rock, people have been gardening something crazy. Everyone has decided to start doing something with plants, understanding that's a minor amount of something that can be controlled to a degree. And in this time of strife, in this time of discord, it's really great that we can be bringing life. But if you're going to be bringing life, I don't have anything against a philodendron, but bring some cannabis into it. Cannabis, and overgrow the world. Okay, so let's say you've decided to. Okay. Let's say you have decided to grow your own and all of that. All right. So you've grown a good grow. How does that benefit you? Well, let's say you're a hash maker. If you're a hash maker, you want to. The best situation is single source where you've grown your own, because you've grown for resin that's great for hash making. This might be a little bit advanced here, but try to follow with me. Okay. So I'm going to take out this little nug here. Nothing against this nug, but so this little nug here is, it's pretty compact. It's not the most compact. It was not the best grown. It's not mine. It is pretty compact. And when you're growing cannabis for selling to other people who want actual flower, you want it to have bag appeal that just looks like beefy and just like, you want it to look like that. You want it to look like all of the heads are, well, not the heads, but all of the all of the calyxes are well trimmed. It looks like a very nice done topiary. Okay, you want weed that looks like really expensive topiary. That's good. When you're being a hash maker, that's not what you're looking for. You're not looking for that. You want some of that larfy. You want really dank flower for sure, but you want it to be a whole lot more open, because remember, what you're doing as a hash maker is you're collecting trichomes. If you don't know, what I do as a hash maker is all the stickiness, or in the case of this particular strain, the sandiness that I can feel on the outside of this bud, all of that, that's what's actually getting you high. It's not the green. Nothing green is getting you high. Nothing green is what is elevating your spirit. What is elevating your spirit are these perfect little globules of either clear to cloudy to yellowish to amberish trichome heads. That's what they are. And as a hash maker, what I want to do is collect those trichome heads as easily as possible and as quickly as possible. If I have a bud that is like held tight, just looking super beautiful, like, pick me, pick me, pick me, that's not going to be as great as a bud that's a little bit more lounging, open, because it's easier to get to all of the heads that are covering the surface of the bud. So I don't really want something super tight like this. I want something wide. Guess what? The farmer doesn't want to really grow that unless the farmer is growing that for hash, because no one wants to buy that. No one wants to buy larfy looking bud. That's what it's called, larfy. No one wants to buy the bud that looks like it's coming from the bottom here, whereas it might still be super, super dank. No one wants to buy that. And we buy with our eyes. So there's a bit of a disconnect, or there's a line that needs to be walked between the grower and the hash maker. And you know what was the best situation? When the hash maker is the grower, or that relationship is so intertwined that the grower is determined to grow specifically for resin. And I like that. So as a grower myself, I'm very happy about that kind of situation. So when I grow the plants that I grow, I know that they're gonna be pretty. They're not gonna be super dense for one. They're not chock full of PGRs and other kind of chemicals that make them look like they're full of steroids. Rather, they're, oh Lord. Oh man. Oh, sorry. I have a machine that's coming in and the downstairs buzzer just went off. Sorry. Person, please leave my package. I don't think they're gonna leave my package, but ugh, God, that's the most unfortunate. In any case, when I'm as the grower myself, I know that I can walk that line between providing flowers that I'm gonna be, good to give to my friends and not feel in any way ashamed, and at the same time be able to get the finest dank from. And every plant that I grow is not going to give me the finest dank. That's the one thing about being a hash maker, is that you realize that although all plants can be beneficial to somebody, that does not mean that all plants are going to make the best hash. That's just not happening. That's not happening at all. Rather, if you have some strains are better as being made with BHO, with butane hash oil, because they're so sticky and so runny that collecting them in the ice and the water, no matter how fast you are, how efficient you are, there's going to be some terpene loss. And you never want any terpene loss. There's nothing like picking up a nice piece of hash and then it just smells like nothing, because if you can't smell it, your body's not going to react to it. It's just this whole synergistic relationship between what's going on with your olfactory, system, and what's going on down here. You can't smell it, can't taste it, your body doesn't really need it. You ever pick up a piece of weed or smoke something and you can see that it's good weed, like the flavor is good and such like that, but it's just not for you. That doesn't mean that the grower did it badly. It just means that the concoction of chemicals that make up that whole cannabis, that bit of cannabis that you have taken, is just not right for you. You know how you can avoid that? Grow your own, make your own. Then you don't have to worry about whether, someone's coming with something that's gonna knock you out. For me, I have low blood pressure. I also have narcolepsy. It's not as fun as it seems in the movies, believe me. So there's certain terpenes that I stay away from. For example, myrcene. Myrcene is very much loved here in California. Strains that have a lot of myrcene are, people like that couch lock feel. Well, considering my blood pressure just stays at like 90 over 60 and only goes up a little bit when I think I'm going to get a needle at the doctor's, but besides that, it stays pretty low. I can't afford that because I am near comatose. When I smoke some of these strains, I can feel my body just like shutting down. And I never want to have that situation. So I carry around my own cannabis so that I know that, hey, if I want to have a little puff, I have some super lemon haze right here. I have some super silver haze, something that's going to work well with my body. At the end of the day, as much as we love cannabis, it still makes changes within our body that we are responsible for. So, for which we are responsible. So, we have to treat it with the care that is necessary. And again, comes back to growing your own and making your own so that you know that you're making medicine to your best, to your best body. With that being said, if you're making medicine to your best body, let's say you're making concentrates or something like that, understand that cannabis as a plant can be used in so many ways. So we talked about how I eat it when it's raw. Okay, so then let's say I have made some bubble hash and I have the really high quality bubble hash that I'm going to take dabs with, and then I have a slightly lower quality that I might make rosin out of so I can get the best out of that, and then an even lower quality there where I'm looking at edibles. Smoking cannabis is not the only way to get cannabis into your body. If let's say you don't like smoke, I have this whole fantasy that one day my mom is going to ingest cannabis with me, but I know it's not going to be via smoking. That's never going to happen. There's always edibles. Now, for someone like me, that's not necessarily the best situation because edibles hit me a little bit too hard. A little bit too hard. I mean, I smoke joints that are really big. My ECS likes it. I smoke a lot of cannabis. I ingest a lot of cannabis through that way, or should I say I consume a lot of cannabis that way. But just 25 milligrams and I am out like a light. Like, I mean, and when I think about people like my mentor, Frenchie Canoli, who like 300 milligrams, 350 milligrams. I'm just like 25 milligrams and I'm gone. But you know what? You have high pain, you have conditions where you need an onslaught of cannabinoids. You don't like smoke. Shoot, maybe you like to be knocked out like that. Go with edibles. But if you're going with edibles, do know that edibles don't kick in immediately. Edibles take, sometimes hour and a half to 2 hours. And what happens to novices is that they just start popping those edibles because they're not feeling it. They're just like, ooh, yeah, and then have a really bad time. They're gonna have a bad time. Me, I know my situation. I know I'm gonna have a bad time. So I always have CBD with me. If you are concerned that you don't want to be outside, we can't go anywhere right now, but if you don't want to be too high, you're feeling just a little bit too disassociated from what you feel comfortable with, then take some CBD. CBD tincture, take CBD capsules, CBD sprays. All of these things will help change the experience that you're having because CBD modifies the receptor that THC sits in. Therefore, the psychoactivity is changed. I have, personal knowledge with this because as a judge for a lot of cannabis cups, what happens is, you smoke, you're taking dabs of the finest rosin, the finest bubble hash. You're up there every 2 seconds. The problem is that's you got to be able to know if something's affecting you, and you can't just stay all the way up there all the time. So every couple of dabs, then I take some CBD, wait 15 minutes, come down, and be able to go up again. So that's just a little tip. Once we get back to being able to do conferences and such like that, if you don't want to feel overwhelmed, by all means, have some CBD with you at all times. If you're like me, you have 2 containers of CBD with me at all times because you never know what's going to happen and you want to feel prepared. And cannabis is supposed to be positive. There's for no reason that one should feel like I'm out of my element or I feel vulnerable or anything like that, unless you want to be vulnerable. But there's always a way. Nature provides a way at all times. So edibles is a good way. And then of course topicals. Topicals, topicals like patches do go past the dermal layer. Other topicals like creams affect locally. So one of the things that's nice about topicals is that you can get pain relief, you can get relief from skin conditions without affecting the blood level, the blood percentage of THC. So if you live in a place where they're going to be drug testing you and such like that, know that ordinary topicals, not patches. Patches do include a chemical substance that allows the medicine to make it through the dermal layer and definitely make it into your bloodstream. So not patches, but if you're going with creams and oils and things of that nature, you can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong. I feel like that was like a whole little string on why you should grow your own, right? Maybe at this time right here, because it's in front of me, I will say that I would like to talk a little bit about just this particular chillum because I like it. And I want to share it. This is a chillum. This is an Italian chillum from Italy. This is Italian chillum from Caio Creations. He's a chillum maker I have been following for a very long time. He's part of this like Italian chillum maker set, who make these beautiful handmade pieces, which provide a nice communal way of smoking cannabis. One of the things that is really bad about like our cannabis, not just cannabis, but our COVID situation is our lack of connection with each other. And I do appreciate that the cannabis community has rallied, just like every other community has, because we're so isolated, and spent time to have these kind of like virtual sessions and educational places where we can communicate our love for cannabis and each other. And this particular way of smoking, the chillum, I feel like really encapsulates that, because although you can smoke chillum alone, it's really nice to smoke it in circle without phones, just focusing on passing and focusing on the breath and passing to each other. And so this was a bit of a non sequitur, but I figured that since it was sitting right there, that I will talk to you about it. Okay, boom, there's that. From a standpoint of growing your own and making your own, I think one of the things that's also beneficial is that for people who are trying to get into the cannabis industry and know nothing about cannabis, I feel like there's no one as strong as a person who's at least growing cannabis. One of the problems with our cannabis industry as it stands right now is that, so I'm here in California. Um, we had a lot of influx of people who really saw cannabis just as a commodity and really didn't understand about cannabis itself or understand the culture around it, and just felt like they could just throw money at the situation and then suddenly, they would just have fantastic cannabis. That did not work. And this year we saw the tanking of a lot of these big name cannabis companies. And while I feel bad for them, no one wants to wish ill on anyone else, even though they were the destruction of all the mom and pops here in California. Besides that, because many people worked for them that ended up losing their jobs, I always say that while there's no such thing at all in terms of job security, one can provide or have a bit of a cushion under oneself at the very least by understanding how to grow cannabis. If you understand how to grow cannabis, you can take those skills many different places. If you understand how to process cannabis, you can take those skills many different places. And even though California is not exactly saturated, but the way the system is set up, unless you have big bucks or willing to bring in a whole bunch of investor money, the chances of coming in on the cannabis industry, unless you're going to one of these counties that don't have a lot of places, like there are counties where you can still get licenses fairly easy. Here in Alameda County, not so much, and plus the money involved is pretty high. With that being said, all around the country, with if you have the ability to make moves, this is now the opportunity to do stuff like go to Oklahoma. I went to Oklahoma 2 times this summer already. I was safe the whole time. I mean, I believe in my mask. I went to Oklahoma twice to teach class. Once to teach a small one company, and one to teach a class and also do some consulting in that way. And one of the things that we have to do is like think outside of the box. Okay, if you've never lived in the Midwest, maybe a whole trip to Oklahoma seems pretty daunting. But what we need to do at this time, as we're trying to make big changes in the world, is not be confined to what we're used to. So, Oklahoma has amazing opportunities right now. If you can partner with someone who's been living there for 5 years, you can have a cannabis business start up with $2,500. $2,500. You have a space, you know how to grow some cannabis, you have a partner that's 5 years in, $2,500. That's such an amazing opportunity at this time. But it does take some, as we would say in Panama, palanca. It takes not even just clout and balls, but moxie to say, you know what? I can see past what feels comfortable right now and move to that next step. So it's not just some place like Oklahoma, or it's not just the United States. It's about time that people think on a more global scale, because once you get outside of the provincial nature of whatever cannabis industry or community that you find yourself in, you see how much bigger the cannabis industry or community is globally. When I'm in Spain and I hear some of the concerns that they have over there, or not just them, but the entire international community that has a tendency to flock into Spain at a certain time per year, I learned to be a better grower. I learned to be a better hash maker. I've learned to be a better steward of the plant as I understand varying perspectives on the plant, right? That is better for all of us. That's better for all of our society. If you're watching this, I can only imagine that you feel an inkling that not only do you have a responsibility toward the greater society, but you have an opportunity to really plug in, and together we make a big change on how our society has been going. Growing cannabis is like a really small part but major part of that whole thing. If we realize that we take our agency back with regard to our wellness, and we no longer have the mentality that those outside of us have to save us. Once we realize that, Western medicine, I'm not anti-surgery, don't think that that's my issue, but Western medicine has been built on plants, and perhaps take out several middlemen and get back to the plant and get back to a more natural and holistic way of living, we will see our own lives transform our family, our community, society as a whole. It really is just like a fractal movement. We are a microcosm of the reality for which we want to change, right? Gandhi says, be the change that you'd like to see. Grow some cannabis. I know, I mean, I'm just cheering. Just grow some cannabis. You will see that your perspective on cannabis will change. Your perspective on health will change. Maybe you grow some cannabis and you realize that some of these rules that have us limited to 6 plants per household or per adult are just really ridiculous and arbitrary, and you decide to put that poli-sci major to use and get yourself into state congress or something. We need you. We need you. And that level of compassion and understanding comes from the quietness that starts from with seed, starts from making that step of being vulnerable enough to raise something, knowing that it can go well or it can go badly, and doing it anyway because it benefits us all of us, all of us. I wish there was a co-host so I could take a little puff in peace, but you know what? I might take the puff anyway. Excuse me 1 second. I had to think about that. Okay, one more thing. Well, I mean, there are many more things. If you find yourself needing some of that focus, if you find yourself wanting to channel your creativity, because I don't really talk about this. Let's grow cannabis for the purpose of getting elevated. Let's grow cannabis for the purpose of releasing ourselves from the shackles of this reality. Sometimes we look down or look askance at people who want to escape this reality, but this reality can be really harsh. This reality not only can be really harsh, maybe the reality is fine, but it has a set of rules that prevents us from seeing from different perspectives. That's the benefit of cannabis. That's the benefit of cannabis, of allowing the quiet to come through us and then opening our eyes to see just from a different vantage point, whether we're growing it, whether we're processing it. The entire experience of being with cannabis does that for us. Gotta say, this is a major plant. This is a wonderful plant right here, man. I don't know how hard it is to really convince. Here's another one. It's called weed, right? You know why it's called weed? Because it can grow in any kind of situation. You can find cannabis growing in a jungle situation. You can find cannabis growing at the foot of the Himalaya, sandy conditions, harsh sun, well, loving sun, but intense sun, cold temperatures. Cannabis can modify herself, her, him, they selves in any way possible. And it's a weed that can survive in any situation. Like if you're killing your cannabis, generally it's because you're overwatering it, and that's because you care so much. And there's going to be a dial-in process. But the cannabis is like, it's like the fortitude. It's almost like a symbol of the fortitude that we need to exist. Like no matter what you throw at it, it'll find some way to keep coming strong. How can we not love that? I'm going to take another. How can we not love that? So, to wrap that up, just letting you know, if you have the opportunity, do yourself a favor, get some really good quality soil, not Miracle Grow, not Scott's, not anything that has any fertilizers in it already. The plant doesn't need that. Before all of that, get yourself some books. Anything Jorge Cervantes, look up True Living Organics. Right now, True Living Soil is really hot. That's the idea of not just creating an inert environment right here, but having an entire ecosystem going on here. So that's a combination of the soil, the mycorrhizae, which is the fungal layer, and that fungal layer that just serves to, it attaches itself to the roots, and it serves to provide nutrients in a more efficient manner to the plants. The bacteria that's in there that is also feeding the plants, whether you're going to have something like beneficial nematodes, you have earthworm castings, which is again that worm poop, and all of what's going on in here is a constant stew of movement and growth. And with True Living Organics, rather than tilling, or that's no till organics, I'm sorry, True Living and no till, rather than tilling and changing that biosphere, the plant is cut down, as will happen with this boy, and another plant is planted right in the same space to allow that whole environment to continue growing. Okay, so anything by Jorge Cervantes, anything about True Living Organics, No Till Garden, look up Jeff Lowenfeld's. If you're interested in getting an actual education that like really does a really good job, school, very first school of its kind, to do a really good job of imbuing you with understanding about cannabis, and that would be Oaksterdam University. Do your research and then grow some cannabis, because no matter what you want to do, if you care about cannabis, you can afford one little bit of your closet for one plant. The benefit will be enormous. Believe me, the benefit will be enormous. You'll be happy with yourself, and the smoke, it will be the sweetest smoke that you will ever smoke. How can you be mad about that? Can you be mad about that? No, I don't think you can be mad about that. I don't think you're mad about that. So I want to say I hope you join into the weed growing community. It all starts from seed. And whatever bit of information that you know, pass it along to somebody else, because whereas you may not make use of it, you never know how you may be starting a seed with someone else or watering someone else's garden. So, with that being said, I thank you for your time. I thank you for this moment, or these moments that we've shared together about cannabis. I want to encourage you to look into growing your own cannabis. And if you're not growing your own cannabis, supporting the growers in your area as best as you can. Buy local, buy small. These multi-state operators often are not the business. They're growing monocultures, which means like huge amounts of the same plant, and therefore they get problems, and they spray them with a whole bunch of pesticides. Don't go that route. Find your organic farmer that is really cares about the plant, puts heart, blood, and soul into the plant, and you'll be doing best for the plant and best for yourself and the cannabis community as a whole. Because if we vote with our dollars, things will change. Things will change. I wish there was like a question and answer that I can do, because like I'm down to the last 9 minutes, and should I go even further, then I'm going to get super deep into like the temperature that your ice should be if you're making hash. And I know that's a little too complicated. So, how about this? Since they're not going to switch over for 9 minutes, how about we go and look at my garden? Yeah, how about we do that? So let's just collect a couple of these babies, because the cats will get it. And this is unconventional. What can I say? We're being unconventional right now. You know what? I'll show you how small of a situation you can have to have a good looking garden. So let's come over to this other room. Oops. All right. Let me show you. I don't know how to turn the camera around. That would actually be helpful. So I will do the best I can. Let me get these plants down. Oh, thank you for bearing with me. All right. Let's show behind me. All right. Let me pull these ready for showing. But this is my garden right now. This is the garden right now. And I say right now because it's sitting in a closet. And this closet is 3 feet by 4 feet, right? And there are several plants. I think there are 30 plants in here right now, with 12 of them being pretty sizable. In this garden right here, I have boys and girls, that major boy that I just took out, and I have different ages. These are seedlings that just came up in the last couple of days. These were about like 4 days earlier than them. These are seedlings. Well, I guess they're not seedlings. They're pretty much older at this point. These are plants that came up 2.5 weeks before those. These are some platinum jagu plants. This one, thankfully, as big as she is, I'm happy that it's a female. Oh, maybe I can show you. Ooh, let me see if I can make this work. Maybe I can show you the how I know she's a female. Okay, this one's not. Oh, ladybugs. I have ladybugs in here because, as a nice preventative measure, ladybugs eat just about everything that will affect your plants. So you see right here, this right here is just a little wisp of, this is not, I grow cannabis here, but this is a little wisp that lets me know that there's a female growing here, right? There's a little wisp. Whereas, oh my goodness, I just dropped this. Come here, baby. Come here. I'm sorry. Whereas the boy has like these little, I've pulled them off, but these little balls. This plant here, interesting, let me just talk about that for the last couple minutes. This plant is an auto plant. No, this actually is early skunk. This is not the auto plant, but I have an auto, oh, there it is, an auto plant. So cannabis actually goes based on, here you go, it's an auto plant. This is called auto diesel mass. Cannabis lives by a photo period generally. That means, as it's vegging, and this is the veg cycle happening right here, as it's vegging and as long as it's getting more than 12 hours of light, it will stay in the veg process. But mimicking what happens as we get closer to harvest, when you change your lights to 12-12, that means 12 hours off, 12 hours on, what happens is the plant is then pushed into flowering. This plant here is an auto flower plant, which means that irrespective of the flowering period, it is going to start it's going to start maturing. So for that reason, although this plant is this small and it only has one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of leaves, it has already shown sex. Whereas I have some plants that are definitely still at, going with the photo period, like this one, similarly sized, and it's not going to show sex for, this is 10/28, it's not going to show sex until almost Christmas. And so this is dependent. This will not start flowering until I give it enough dark, whereas this one will flower no matter what the light situation about that. And the value of having auto flowers is, auto flowers are really, really popular in places like in the Netherlands and places that have a very short growing window, and that's because they just don't have enough of harvest time in order for the plants to mature properly. So it's, the plants have been bred in such a way such that as long as they can support any bit of life, any bit of further life, then they go right into flowering. Where these other plants, like early skunk, although this one is going to be an early plant, but this early skunk or anything else I have here is going to wait until it gets that indication from the sun, or in this case, from lights, that it is appropriate to start flowering. And so this is the garden. So again, grow your own. I started off in a smaller closet 17 years ago. I'm only in the closet right now because I am getting ready for this one situation, and I'm going to close out on this. Hold on. So lighting has changed through the years as well. So whereas we had, I've been growing for a long time. So I've been growing with this like T5 and fluorescent lights, and then moving to the HPS, that standard, usual, huge lamps and such like that. This year, what I'm doing differently, I've been given the opportunity to move up to LEDs, and not only just LEDs, but like amazing LEDs. This is a company called Cropter LED. And so this is my grow tent. See, so you see that was the closet, but this is a grow tent. And these are some super nice this is a really, really nice LED setup that I'm supposed to finish in this next week so that I can move into the wonderful world of LED. LED's been out for a while. In the beginning, growers really felt like they weren't getting the best that they can get out of their plants with LED, but it's been dialed in quite a bit. And one of the things that's nice about these particular LEDs is that I can create my own recipes of layers of blue and red light so that I can get exactly the type of plants that I want. And like I said, I'm growing for resin, and I don't feel badly if I'm just going to get flowers that are going to be okay, because there's going to be a learning curve, and that's how life is. But I am super excited about the idea of being able to really dial in my process about being a hash maker by getting the exact resin that I want, by dialing in my lights. That's going to be great, right? That's going to be great. So it's now down to the last couple minutes. I want to say, let's see if I can still get light but not have a terrible background. Great. So I want to say thank you so very much for this opportunity to talk, really off the cuff about cannabis and why we should all grow our own. Again, my name is The Dank Duchess. I can be found anywhere online as The Dank Duchess and on my website, www.thedankduchess.com. It was a pleasure to be here, and have a beautiful day.
Nugtopia, it is my world of cannabis characters. It is my way to approach the public in a friendly way to get them to understand what cannabis is, to let them see, the medical benefits of it, to erase the stigma, to get them to understand that this is a plant here on this planet to help people and, give them that light to survive. I really believe that this is going to be the forefront of cannabis art.
K.O. Hi, Giselle.
Okay, this thing just blacked out. Hold on.
But I think you're already on live.
Yeah.
In case we are on live, I'll just do a quick intro. I'm Mariah Barnhart, co-founder of Cannamoms, here with the other co-founder of Cannamoms, Giselle Delgadillo. A little bit about how we came to being Cannamoms and founding and running that organization. My daughter, Dahlia, was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 2. And Giselle's son, Bruno, was diagnosed with an extreme form of epilepsy, Dravet. And we met in 2013, founded Canna Moms in 2014, and engaged in federal and Florida state legislation. Florida eventually passed Amendment 2. We worked on that for a few years. We got low THC passed in 2014. Amendment 2 passed in 2016. And as most people know, the MORE Act has just passed the House. We personally don't think it's going to go any further than that, but what we do think is it was a really good gauge of where we are as a country and what the will of the people is. So getting the government to follow suit can sometimes be painful and time consuming, but that's the track we're on now. We were really fortunate that Canna Moms was accepted as a participant in the United Nations special session in 2016. And as a lot of people know, now they have rescheduled cannabis as a medicine internationally. So we're on the right track internationally, federally. A lot of the time, state law will try to coincide with federal law. Federal law will try to coincide with international treaties. And everyone's just kind of got an excuse not to change the status quo. And so part of the work we've done with telling our children's stories and moving forward with medical legislation has led us to where we are today, which is talking about a much broader injustice, the war on drugs in general, which demographics that is intended to harm most and has been most harmful to, and eventually adult use, hopefully ultimately descheduling altogether and making it a personal freedom rather than a government right. Giselle?
I could barely hear. Hold on. I mean, pretty much what Mariah summed up. I'm actually in the car right now. I had to pick up some of Bruno's meds. He actually is having a rough day today, and I'm hoping that for this month we do actually make it out of the hospital, that we do not have to go into the hospital, because then that also kind of ruined our schedule for his medicine, because as you know, medical cannabis is not allowed in the hospitals, and that's just CBD. And Bruno is taking both CBD and THC. He takes very little THC right now. He is growing. He's going through a growth spur. He gains a lot of weight. So we have to adjust with his medical marijuana doctor, which is Dr. Michelle Weiner. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of her, know her. She's awesome. So I have to work on a new schedule for his medication. But it kind of ruins it whenever we end up in the hospital, because you pretty much cannot medicate your kids, or any patients cannot medicate. And this is something that's nationwide. We cannot medicate our children in the hospital.
In a
So either
hospital
you,
that is falls under a federal umbrella of any sort, so any type of federal funding, federal guidelines. So it's a federal issue, and a lot of people don't realize as state by state we go to legalize. The ultimate goal has always been federal descheduling, and with the
yep,
MORE Act, there was a lot of things that we would have liked to have seen change. But if we believed that it was going to go further in the House, we might have heavily. It's very hard for us to advocate. We have to pick and choose our battles. Our time's limited. Giselle's talking about Bruno having seizures today and going to pick up medicine. I leave, at 7 in the morning to take my daughter to St. Jude in Memphis. Both of our children are still constantly under the care of hospitals that are federally regulated.
So it makes it hard for us to even medicate our children. And if we have to, unfortunately, it has to be blocked from everybody. Like, you know, nobody sees everything and nobody says anything, but it's just something that we've been doing. I think every patient in a legal state has been doing. So it's very hard for us, and it's very hard to change our children's schedule. Like Mariah, she has to go to St. Jude, so everything changes right there. She's going to be there for a good 2, 3 days. So it makes it difficult for us. So, I mean, we continue to fight the battle. We continue to advocate. We hope that it goes further, that it gets decriminalized. But we could only do so much. I mean, sometimes they ask both, it's only both of us right now. And as you can see the schedule, it's completely off. Like she has to travel. I have to go prepare a hospital bag just in case I have to stay in the hospital. So our schedule is never, it's day by day. Actually, it's hour by hour because we can have plans right now for this minute and it could change right away. So, I mean, we're trying to keep our Cannamoms alive. But as you can see, it's very hard too. You know, we need a lot of help. I mean, we're blessed to have people like Nugtopia that have always looked out for us and they're always doing events and helping us. And even though our schedule is crazy, you know, they always think of us and we're so grateful and we're blessed to have them in our lives. You have no idea how thankful we are. So we're lucky to have you guys with us and supporting us every step of the way. Just like there's other, you know, companies and other advocates that do support us. You know, they do fundraisers and they include us. Um, One of them was just recently helping us as well, helping Bruno with his Mary Adams. She's, you know, she's a chef, CBD chef, Mary. So she's, you know, I had to mention her because she's been helping us a lot. You know, anywhere that she can include us, she will as well. So, and the support from everyone that we've gotten, you know, so many companies to name, but we're blessed. We hope that we can continue growing, that we can continue advocating, and that we can continue fighting, you know, not only for our children, other patients. If we can be included, absolutely, you know, we appreciate that.
And
So,
you talk about medical and how medical is particularly difficult in hospital settings, which that's not just for children, that's for anyone of any age, any critically or chronically ill patient who has to be hospitalized occasionally or continuously. This becomes an entirely new, even if your state has legalized, this becomes a new issue. With us in particular, it's a little more of a hurdle because you're also dealing with CPS and state involvement, and you have very limited rights and options in the care of your child before the state will intervene, which is very scary. So you have to be a little more cautious. Like if I were just sick taking medicine, I could break laws all day long without worrying that that was going to harm someone else. But when it's your child and you're risking the state, taking blood work that you don't approve of at the hospital to ensure that you're not using something illegal for a child, which would be, immediate cause for them to revoke your rights of your child, the care of your child then would be pawned off to the state, which we all know where those um, failures, we've all seen some of those major failures, and nobody wants that. But as we've gone along, this was 7, 8 years ago that we started this. And we started primarily in the South. My advocacy started in Tennessee on a federal level and then to Colorado and straight back to Florida as our home state, where my daughter deserved to be home with her family and friends. And I felt obligated to start in my own backyard. It was very obvious early on that descheduling, decriminalizing, that adult use, quote unquote, recreational, medical, we're all going to be intertwined someday. But where we started in a Republican supermajority, primarily working in the South, and Florida being a Republican supermajority of several decades, and in fact, currently a Republican supermajority trifecta, the conservative outlook on cannabis, because this was made to be such a partisan issue early on, we had to work so hard to undo that stigma on top of the stigma of cannabis, then to undo the stigma of cannabis being a Democratic Party partisan issue. And in fact, I think last year the Democratic Party took it off of their platform because it really is not a partisan issue. It's an issue of compassion and it's an issue of human rights. And as we've moved along and been able to be a little more open, less conservative, you've got to pitch messages that are going to be received correctly by the people who are in power, right? When you're working with politicians for legislation, or the mainstream to vote on behalf of a ballot initiative. As we've moved along, we've seen so much progress. I think that we're in a time right now where, for the first time in the 8 years of activism that we've been engaged in, where we're going to start to see just how much that work paid off. And in trying to introduce this as a medicine, also subliminally, telling people this is safe. This is so much safer than caffeine, than alcohol, especially than cigarettes, than all of these legal psychotropic substances. All of those are psychoactive drugs. So cannabis is by far the safest. It has the most medicinal benefits with none of the side effects and risks of death. And in that, we've seen from the adult use side, from the decrim side, from the descheduling side, we've seen kind of something click, a light bulb go off. And we're at a point now where the dominoes are falling, and we can start, Giselle and I can even start publicly talking about the moms of these critically and chronically ill children using cannabis for PTSD. The amount of trauma that these parents endure watching their children suffer. There's no greater suffering in life than watching your child suffer, watching your child die, which is all of our greatest fears. But a lot of the moms that we work with and become close with actually live that reality, and how cannabis can be super beneficial, not just to vets who are going overseas to fight a war, but to people who are fighting wars every single day in their personal lives, fighting for their children's lives, helping, their dying parents. I think that these kinds of conversations are next, because medical just isn't enough. In a state like Florida, it's really glaringly obvious, but all over the United States, you'll find people who tell you it's too expensive, it's inaccessible. In Florida, disabled patients or parents of children who can't travel, how are they going to go as far out as the first recommending doctor is, in order, because you have to be seen on site. They don't allow telemedicine. They've made some exceptions over the pandemic, which are amazing, and hopefully we can at some point we to keep those changes in place, but it's too expensive. A lot of these parents are on SSI, disability for their children, staying home 24/7 with them. A lot of the patients are on disability. A lot of these are injured vets on disability, and it's an inaccessible program, not just because you're having to travel outside of your home, but because of the cost of a recommendation, and then the ongoing costs incurred by purchasing medicine that sometimes is 2 or 3 times as much as black market. And obviously some of us are in situations where we have to be able to ensure the safety of a medicine for someone who's critically or chronically ill. But if you're talking about someone who's using it for PTSD or using it for something that doesn't make your immune system compromised, like cancer, Dravet, et cetera, then they are going to choose the black market route. And we know that people that look like me aren't being as harshly discriminated against as people that look like Giselle, a black mother who's scared every time her son leaves the house. So I said early on, our one of our mottos for Cannamoms was the war on drugs is killing our children. And I meant that with my whole heart, in that our inability to access cannabis legally was going to kill our children. And there were a lot of children dying at that time whose parents were asking us to speak on their behalf, that they felt that being able to access cannabis may have saved their child's life, whether it was reducing seizures, just helping them feel better so that they were eating, not vomiting all the time from chemotherapy side effects, etc. But then as we moved along, worked with more and more people, more mothers. Some of us were more comfortable coming out with our stories than others, for good reason. And as we've gone, the years that have gone on, and we've been able to see firsthand and learn and be educated on the fact that the war on drugs is a war on Black people. The war on drugs was created as a war on minorities in this country. And anyone who calls himself an activist in this space, anyone who sets out to make money in this space, I think really needs to become educated on that and acknowledge that that's just part of who this country is. That's just part of our infrastructure. And it's something that we all have the ability to acknowledge and to help undo. And I think a lot of people still aren't acknowledging it because that would require you to actually do something about it. So I think that, something as moms of critically ill children, we're saying, other moms whose children are not ill but are still fearing for their child's life have to have a platform and their voice heard as well, because we saw what an impact these children's stories had on our neighbors, on the voters. And we need more of those stories, but from different perspectives, different demographics, different reasons that you're fearing for your child's life. And those are the stories, in my opinion, that are going to, just like the children's stories of maybe being sick or suffering, help to get medical passed. Those stories from everyone, how as moms, we are building society. We run society. We take care of our families, our neighbors, our elderly parents. Obviously, we raise our children up into this world. And I think that the moms coming out with different messages of how the war on drugs is harming them, that's going to be the big push in getting eventual descheduling, whether there's baby steps along the way that involve, decrim and adult use. But we're getting there, and that makes me really, really just happy to be alive. I know that Giselle and I have worked so hard that sometimes it just feels like you've just worked so hard to push through all these obstacles. But the truth is we're lucky. We just happen to be alive at a time when this message had been being chanted and repeated, and other people were keeping it alive for so long that by the time we came along, it's luck and work. Yes, we worked really hard, but we were also just really lucky. So everyone right now here in 2020 is just super lucky to have the opportunity to do the work that's going to affect the change, because so many people laid the groundwork and the infrastructure for so long that we have the opportunity that now, if we do the legwork, it is going to affect change. It's just a combination of the right time, the right place, and a willingness to do the work and share the message.
Yep.
Just letting me go on and on. So
Yes. As my phone keeps coming in and out. I'm sorry. I'm parked right now, so it's a little hard to. I got cut off for a minute and then I came back on, and I knew you were gonna kill me if I didn't come back on.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, we're blessed that we're here and that we can still fight for patients, that we can still attend, some of the legislation, there's still work being done. Um, but also, like she was mentioning, parents with PTSD, like right now, honestly, right before coming on, I had to put on some makeup. I had a meltdown. Like I didn't know, okay, I have to go home right now and prepare a bag for the hospital. I'm hoping I don't have to make it to the hospital, that I don't have to stay in the hospital. But yeah, I had a meltdown because I'm like, is this ever going to end? I'm blessed that I'm going less to a hospital right now. I haven't been there since March. So that's a huge stretch for us. I'm blessed that my son's seizures went down from 300 to maybe 1 to 3 a week. And today's been horrible. Today we've had a good 4 or 5 seizures. So we've been trying to handle it at home, trying to avoid the hospital. But if not, we'll probably have to call rescue and end up going tonight. But the fact that I'm able to say, my son is doing so much better right now. That I am blessed that I was able to try cannabis on him and see the difference, and that he's not on a cocktail of medications. He's only taking maybe 2 pharmaceuticals, and the rest is, natural medicine. And we're going to call this natural medicine. It's marijuana. It's a medicine. As patients need this. We all need this. It's a medicine that should be used without fear. And it's sad that we even sometimes fear to mention it. Like every time I have to speak to the pediatrician, if I have to change the pediatrician, now I'm changing my, his neurologist is leaving practice in December, the end of the month. I'm crushed because this doctor has known my son for 9 years, his whole life. And now to speak to the new doctor to let him know what I'm doing, to get, I don't even really need to get an approval because thank God my son is a legal patient. I'm thankful that we have the resources to make him a legal patient. He was not a legal patient all his life. He was, like the saying goes, healing
Illegally
illegally.
healed.
Yeah, yeah, illegally healed, illegally medicated pretty much. And we had to do this for a couple of years before it passed in 2016. So 2014 we had, unfortunately it didn't pass, and 2016 it did pass. And from there's been a lot of changes from the time that it passed to now. There's a huge difference of what's happening right now. There's so many dispensaries right now that I can't even keep up with them. Like before, I used to know all five dispensaries, all five. We even knew like the owners of the dispensaries, but now there's so many. But we're happy that it's expanding, and that flower is in place, and that edibles are in place now, because this is something we never thought that Florida was gonna have. So, I mean, we're thankful for all of you that keep supporting us and that support, cannabis as medication. And hopefully we'll get to see this, just like other states, just let it be legal. So many people can benefit from this. So we're going to continue fighting for that.
Well, and what
And
I
I know
hope is
Florida
we got
will.
so much sympathy. We got so much love and care and support and encouragement and people on our team and on our side and voting on our behalf. Is that our next ask is that you allow all mothers to have that same respect, that same
Yes.
support, that same when other mothers start coming out with different stories about their realities. When I tell you that my daughter was suffering and dying and being resuscitated and taken into emergency surgery with no pain medicine as she woke up. And nobody ever wants, well, that's not true. I've been questioned a couple times, but nobody really in this community ever really um, questioned me. Not even just this community. I have worked hand in hand. I helped the YMCA create their first cancer survivorship program on the St. Jude Family Centered Council for years. I've worked with some of these amazing nonprofit organizations that work with children, and I've just gotten so much love and support and sympathy. So when other mothers come out with stories about why they fear for their children's lives, what I'm really hoping is that the same people who opened their ears and their eyes and their hearts to us will continue to move forward with those open ears and eyes and hearts, because not everyone in America has the same experience. There are multiple different Americas in this country. And whether you want to believe that or not, you can't just decide whose story you're going to listen to and whose you're going to ignore. We are going to bring to the table in this coming year, we're going to have, I think, the nation's first ever women founded, women run adult use educational campaign here in Florida. And what I'm hoping is when we bring these women, a platform, a spotlight, a microphone, that the same people who were so compassionate towards us show that same compassion to them, that they don't question their stories, their realities, the America that they've known, that they've grown up in, that they're raising their children in. I think that mothers are so impactful across the globe throughout history, of all of, history throughout everything we've been through in evolution. Mothers have been so impactful. And, particularly in the history of this country, I don't remember where I said this earlier, but today or yesterday, I was talking about mothers being the force behind prohibition of alcohol. And if we can do something like get prohibition of alcohol put in place, we can surely get prohibition of cannabis taken out, right? We've got to work together. We've got to listen to our neighbors. We have to go into this with, understanding hearts, open minds and let people tell their story and believe them when they tell you. People believed me when I told them that my daughter was suffering, and they voted on behalf of us. And I hope that, I don't know if we have until 7:30 or till 8, but if we get that clarified, then we might can spend a few minutes, Giselle, talking about the Hispanic demographic down in Miami and what's different in the Hispanic community in regards to the stigma of cannabis, how you really successfully infiltrated with the medical side, and how we might go about doing some of these different demographics that we've worked with, the churches. I mean, I think that, with adult use, the Hispanic community of Miami was completely overlooked for all the years that we've, seen this being pushed for, right? But you so successfully really, really pulled the heartstrings of this community down in Miami where you live and where you're from, that I'd like some input on what you think that that's going to look like for adult use as we move forward. I could tell you what that looks like with conservative, the churches, the pastors' wives, and actually you and I have worked together on some of those things. But what are your thoughts?
Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to connect. Oh, I got lost. Sorry.
I mean, I know your thoughts. I could share them, but it would be nice to have
You do them. Just
another
share
voice in
them.
here.
I'm trying share them while I'm connecting again. I'm connected. I'm just trying to get back to the camera.
Well, I guess I could just say, from my perspective, moving into 2021, for anyone that wants to, be a part of actually affecting change, not like, just being right and saying what you think and just that being, what's right. If you're actually trying to affect change and you're willing to meet in the middle and do the
Okay.
work, then, I think that there are different messages for different audiences, and not everyone is the right messenger. So I feel like it's really important to know who your best audience is, who you most resonate with. And if we're going to be doing the work, we want to be smart about it. You want to choose your battles, as we've already said, and you want to work smarter, not harder. And I think it's really important to know who your best audience is. There are certain audiences where I walk in the room and they're like, no credibility at all. Where's your degree? What's your title? Um, but Estelle, did you hear the original questions and what you think some of the specific hardships you're going to face down in Miami are going to be when we start moving these messages toward a broader, acceptance of cannabis, maybe under the umbrella first of adult use and moving to decrim and deschedule?
Oh, it'll be hard here in Florida. I think Miami, being that it's at least where I live, it's a large community, Hispanic community, and as I was raised, the word marijuana is like the devil, like mentioning the devil. Like anything that deals with drugs, the first thing that comes in mind is marijuana. And I never even realized that it's not even, pot and like all this. It's sad that they compare it to the other drugs when this drug is like a healing drug. It's like medication, medicine, and people use it, and you don't see people overdosing on it. You don't see people.
Did I lose you? But yeah, that's why it's really important to get the
uh,
message out there and educate on, where the war on drugs originated and its original intention. And of course, a
mhm.
community that's been disproportionately harmed by this war is going to be more fearful of what they think is causing the harm. So even though in reality, what's causing the harm is racism, institutionalized and systemic. What's causing this is the laws as they are today, the war on drugs, as the most expensive, deadliest, and dangerous war we've ever waged in the United States, and it happens to just be on our own citizens, right? So educating people about the fact it's not this that's harmful; it's the laws against this that have been so harmful to specific communities, right? I think we lost you again. I'm guessing he's letting us go till 8 because it's 7:33 and I haven't heard anything.
I think
And
he is. He said we had until 8.
well, that's
Um,
great. I mean, do we know? I couldn't see the comments. I saw something coming up that looked like comments, but if there are any questions, whether
I'm
it's
trying to check the chats right
medicine.
now.
Yeah, so whether it's about, medicine and dosing and tolerance or,
Oh,
pushing towards adult use and
one thing about with children is that a lot of parents are very confused when it comes to dosing and also finding the right doctor that can help them with the dose. And one thing that you have to remember, it's not that you're going to start your child on cannabis and all pharmaceuticals are going to go away. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. We have many side effects from pharmaceuticals that my son has been taking a medication that he's been on for years. That's the one medicine that I haven't been able to touch. Even though his seizures went down and cannabis is helping him, those like I don't touch it. It's a benzo. I haven't been able to touch that medication for the life of me because I freak out. Like I know that he's gonna have more seizures just because of the fact that I have to remove some of the medication. So we don't even do it. Like I haven't even brought it up with the doctors because I'm not touching it at all. Just the fact that his seizures went down from 1 to 2 a week, except on days that he's not doing well, it makes a huge difference. But I know that when it comes to dosing, a lot of parents are doubtful and have a lot of questions on that. And you just have to find the right doctor. Just make
yeah,
sure
and
that you consult with a
it's not
doctor.
a an isolated synthesized component of a plant or a compound. It is a botanical. And as with all botanicals, you're going to have individualized responses, which is why medicine, in my opinion, in throughout the history of since my childhood through my adulthood, medicine has really started to move towards individualized and personalized medicine. You mentioned earlier Dr. Michelle Weiner, that's her specialty, right? She's going to sit down with you and see you as a person, as a whole human being with all of your personalized needs, mind, body, soul. But even with just the body, you've got such a personalized and individualized need structure. So with a plant, you have hundreds of compounds that we don't even know about yet. You've got
Mm-hmm.
hundreds that are identified that we maybe don't even know what they do. I think that we were talking about sativa and indica. Indica is going to make you tired. And then we found out, myrcene. If there's a lot of myrcene in the plant, that's what makes you tired. So maybe we were calling plants high in myrcene indica and didn't know it. But we had a lot of, because of the laws, actual scientists and doctors kind of stayed away from this. So pseudoscience really took over for a long time. And Google Science has been a thing for 15 years now, and it's only getting worse. And we've seen that in the pandemic. And it's like so important to be educated, to be an educated consumer, an educated patient, an educated parent, especially, but also with balancing that you didn't go to school for 8 years for to specialize in something, that you're not a neurologist, you're not a medical doctor, and not saying that they're gods and that everything they say can be trusted, because every doctor that we've worked with throughout my daughter's diagnosis can tell you I question everything. I research it, I try to understand it, I consult with, dozens of other doctors on it. And at the end of the day, if it's something that I don't understand, I just have to admit that I don't understand it. And I think that that's a hard thing to learn because sometimes we think we understand something. And I've just been super lucky to have the connections and contacts I do. And Giselle, you kind of have a similar personal life in that sense, that we've got a lot of connections to medical professionals, to doctors, to nurses, to scientists. And that's part of what Cannamoms grew into, was trying to share that with other people, because it seemed suddenly so unfair that we had, we're able to tell our children's stories, and in that connect with some of the world's leading scientists and doctors. And we really tried to we went from Cannamoms being kind of a community for parents like us to wanting to build a platform for other parents to be able to tell their stories too, to also trying to connect them with some of the expertise and knowledge and education that we were so blessed to be given so
Mm-hmm.
freely by people who I'm sure charge a lot of money to go to conferences and a lot of money for the courses that they write. Michelle and I wrote Florida's first CME approved program for physicians in the state of Florida. So that was a really cool experience. And I mean, we've just been given a lot of, I'll speak for myself on this. I have been given seats at a lot of tables that I don't belong at. I've been given seats that I didn't necessarily earn. And because of that, I feel that any privilege bestowed upon you, whether through birth or, horrific situations like our children's diagnosis, whatever brought it to you, it's your job to then try to give it to everyone else. And I think that's what we work really, really hard to do. So,
I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, just that, she was given a lot of seeds. I think I'll speak for myself too, that I was. Um, and we feel honored that we had the offer as well, of, inviting us. And I mean, just at the beginning when we first started, we were offered, someone that we met that was very compassionate to us. And this is how we pretty much got started too. We kept talking about medicating our children, how much it will help them, how much we needed. We didn't really have the medications available. We didn't really have the sources available. We're parents, um, at least the two of us, single parents raising two, we have a normal child and a child with a disability. So it makes it really hard because you're dealing with a teenager. In our case, she has her son who's, thank God, healthy, but he's a teenager. I have my daughter, which I'm grateful that is very healthy, but she's a teenager. So I have to deal with the teenage stage. She's a girl, and Mariah has a son. So we have, like, things that we have to deal with along the line with taking care of our sick children. And we know that the siblings feel deprived from a lot of things because they feel that all the attention goes to the disabled child, that we don't have time for them. So we were blessed that at the beginning in 2014, someone offered us the trip to go to California. And they're like, all this advocating, you need to start trying the medications and use them for your children. And we're like, how are we going to get that? We don't have money for that. We were not working. We're living pretty much off, SSI and trying to have side jobs, living in debt. So, which is not only us, it's also patients doing that. So we were blessed that we were given the opportunity to go to California and become patients over there. And they give us a home to stay in. And we have to leave our children behind, our regular children behind, the siblings, in order to try. We had tried some. Mariah had been in Colorado before, and we tried medicating our children legally in California. And this is how pretty much we started, introducing our children to cannabis. And I think we had, like, the first time in years that Mariah had seen Bruno, carry Bruno, met Bruno, that she saw that for one day he didn't really have the hundreds of seizures that he did. It happened in the afternoon, and it was one day, but it was one day. It was like, wow. He continued to go back to his seizures, but they started
at the
decreasing
time,
once
you
we had
just talked
a
a while
regimen.
ago about not wanting to decrease benzos, but I wanted to interject at some point that people should know that he's been on all
You have,
sorts of drugs. And at this time, he
yeah.
was being given an experimental veterinarian drug for children. So it's not that
Mm-hmm.
she's like anti one thing or the other. It's just that a lot of us parents, my daughter's probably been on something like 70 medications. So it's not that anyone's for or against anything. It's just when your child's suffering, you're for anything that's going to help them.
Yeah, and it's so many medications. Like Bruno was taking a seizure medication that helps a lot of patients with seizures, especially with Dravet syndrome, which is one of the rarest form of epilepsy, that causes hundreds of seizures. With, you can be on a cocktail of medications, they're not going to help. Um, One of the medications was causing drug-induced lupus. So we had to remove that medication right away. Whether it worked or not, we couldn't continue giving it to him. So there's so many side effects, but after seeing all the side effects that he's gone through, using the experimental drug, being in the hospital, which, a lot of the medications caused denture problems for him. We were in the hospital for months with a dental surgery. They had to remove 10 of his teeth. They had to do 6 root canals all at once. Imagine us going through pain from one toothache. My child was like 5 years old going through that pain, and he was on drip morphine. He didn't have a choice. So all these medications, have caused all these problems for him. Many hospital stays,
Well, and
many
when you think of
vegetative
drug addicts,
stays.
you think of like I know one of the meth campaigns with the teeth, like the teeth rotting out, jawbone kind of disintegrating and teeth disintegrating, and that's happening to these children. Very, very young children, 5 and 6 years old, have those same issues from drugs that do identical things that are legal.
And all his medicine was legal. So during this time, so then what I had to run to, have them do the drip morphine on him. This is a child that suffers from seizures, but along the way has come everything else. We've had dental issues, he has eye issues, ear issues. Like he has a lot of issues, unfortunately. And seizures are not the only one. Right in February we had to. They always push for a G tube on him, for feeding, and I always said no because I know medical cannabis can help increase his. If it helps with his seizures, he'll be able to eat, and it did. And I fought it for many years, and it helped along the way
That's the other
up
thing is
until
holistic. People
2020.
don't take, everyone wants to try to act like, and actually, I have been guilty of, being a little upset that people, maybe portray this as too much of a cure-all because the mainstream really can't swallow that. And it's not a cure-all. I have watched plenty of people die on heavy cannabis doses, children included. But it's a holistic thing. So when you say, I feel that this saved my child's life, or I feel that this could save a child's life, or a couple of points to be noted is one, when you're dealing with, an elderly parent, you're trying to maybe extend their life, but most importantly, enhance their quality of life. When you're dealing with a child, it's such a hard balance because you're trying to give them 80 years of life. You're not trying to extend their life a few months or a couple years. You're trying to give them their full life and balance their quality of life at the same time. But then furthermore, there's multiple reasons why holistically this is important. For a child like Dahlia, who at one point was diagnosed with central apnea, meaning if she went to sleep, she could just stop breathing because her brain doesn't tell her body to breathe. Morphine is a respiratory depressant. So kids get morphine like candy in pediatric cancer hospitals. That just is what it is. The entire intent of morphine is to get you high. So the opium plant, like the entire intent of morphine isolated from the opium plant is just to get you high, because we are not animals. Because, well, maybe we are, but because we know and understand that there comes a point when alleviating someone's suffering and pain is all that matters. Nobody's out rioting and protesting over morphine from the opium plant getting you high, because that's literally all it does. Whereas cannabis has that effect. It's almost a side effect. Like it does have the effect of giving you that high, that euphoria, but it also does so many other things. So people don't think, these pediatric cancer patients, a lot of them are dying of side effects of the chemotherapy itself because it's toxic, of heart failure, organ failure, when that toxicity catches up with them, and or later cancers. So a lot of times they're considered cured at 5 years, but 10 years from then, when they're 15, they're going to end up with another cancer that's going to kill them from the original chemotherapies, which mostly do come with side effect of future cancers. And feeding tubes, that's really important. If you can get a cancer kid to stop vomiting and to start eating. Dahlia ended up not having to get a feeding tube, which she undoubtedly would have. She had atrophy of both legs. She was vomiting constantly. She could not hold food down. They wanted to put a feeding tube in. So she never ended up having to get a feeding tube. So then she's holding down food, which is nutrition. So then her legs aren't atrophied. So she's active. Well, we know that active fit kids, no matter the diagnosis, are going to be much more likely to survive any illness because they're active. Now, kids eating, having nutrition, drinking the appropriate amount of water, not being dehydrated, all of those things holistically are going to contribute to the life and the quality of life of that child or patient of any age, because that's really all of those things have to do with living and having a quality of life. So it really can be said that a lot of people's lives have been saved by cannabis just based on those side effects. Not even talking about, the controversy of whether cannabis being, taken in orally can actually reach cancer cells to kill it as it would in a petri dish. Not even having those debates or discussions. So many ways that these children, Bruno not having to get a feeding tube. If these kids get feeding tubes, they could get infections from the feeding tubes, from the surgery, or later when they pull it and it gets infected. They can die from those infections. They can die from not having the proper nutrition, from being dehydrated, from being overdosed on a respiratory depressant if their brain isn't functioning properly. There's and sleep. We all know that in order to live a happy life, to be a functioning human being who's productive and up and going to beat, an illness, a virus, anything like that, we've got to sleep, eat, and be, active, right? And that's what cannabis gives a lot of these kids, regardless of if you want to debate what it does with cancer cells, what it's doing neurologically for seizure patients. If all it does is make them active and feel good and eat and not vomit and drink enough water and be hydrated, if those are the only side effects of it, then it's still saving lives just by doing those seemingly simple but life saving things.
I couldn't, my phone cut off. I think I'm having problems. But the thing with the G tube, yes, it caused my fear with the G tube has always been the infections. Him pulling out the G tube because he's very active now.
Mm-hmm.
But he was having like every time he'll eat, it will go to his lungs. I can't believe I just
Inhaling. He was inhaling his food.
yeah, no, but I blanked out on the word. We have a word for it. But I just blanked out. But he was having issues with that, and we unfortunately had to get the G tube um, due to aspirating pneumonia. So he was aspirating his food. It was going to his lungs. He doesn't speak. He doesn't talk. He doesn't know how to make signs. Languages or show where it hurt. So we had no idea. I had to guess for a good month between his nurse and myself and my mom what is going on. How come he's pocketing his food? He's not swallowing his food. Till we took him to the ER, and we unfortunately it happened in February when the whole pandemic with coronavirus started. So we
Mm-hmm.
had, he started having high fevers due to the pneumonia, the aspirating pneumonia. So we had to get a G tube. It could be taken out. He needs to have feeding therapy, swallowing therapy. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to take him due to the pandemic. He gets a cold, we end up in the hospital. So I'm trying to avoid all this. We have some of his therapies at home, which I love his therapy center. They've known him since he was one. So they work with me. I don't know this other center where he has to do the eating therapy, because it's a special type of therapy to get them to swallow the right way and not aspirate. So that's a whole other issue that I have to deal with. But I'm blessed to say that I was able to avoid the G tube for many years. And I would actually say that it was thanks to cannabis because the fact that the seizures decreased played a major factor in him being able to eat his food, and the
Well, and
fact
that's
that
what I was going to
cannabis
say
helps
is
with
even if,
appetite.
yeah, is that because it reduced his seizures, like Bruno had a developmental issue from, I don't really know how to explain this, but it was like a chicken or egg situation. Because he was seizing so much, his brain couldn't focus on doing things like pulling himself up, sitting up. So when a child learns to sit up or they start pulling themselves up, they strengthen and then their brain strengthens and then they learn the next thing. So every time Bruno would get to those points, he would regress because he was having so many seizures. Not only can they cause brain damage, but they can just undo what's already been done, even if there's not actual brain damage being done at that time. Because if a kid's not repeatedly doing these things, they're not going to be able to do them again. And so
Yeah.
with him, a lot of it was
And
being able to grab and reach. He's super active now.
yeah, no, with him right now, like I wouldn't take him though. Minus Corona, I couldn't take him to a store because everything will be on the floor. He's a needy guy.
He likes
He
my
needs to touch
hair.
everything. Yes, he'll pull on
My
the
hair is
hair,
his
especially
favorite.
that it's long. So
Um,
he's very active. He's a complete different child than what we met because because I can actually say met because I didn't know my kid. All I knew was a child that has his body would jump 24/7. That's all I knew. From birth, he started seizures at 3 months and his body would always do this little jumps that I had no idea what it was. Little did I know that there were seizures until, at 3 months, the full blown seizure came out and take him to the hospital, and we still didn't even know what he had. I had to go for a second opinion an hour away, and that's when they did some blood work. With Dravet syndrome, you have to do blood work. And that's how we found out that he had Dravet syndrome, which I had no idea what that was either. I had to look it up. The doctor looked it up. I had a printout of what to bring to my local hospital if I had to bring him again. They told me he was never going to get off medication, that he was going to be on medication for the rest of his life. That's all that I was told. And that then comes to depth, that it's the same thing, with children having respiratory issues, with Dravet syndrome, my child could be sleeping right now and not wake up. He could be taking a nap and not
well, and
wake
we
up
have
because he's
different
having a seizure in his
expectations,
sleep.
Outside
Yeah.
of special needs parenting, in special needs parenting, we talk about this a lot. And then I'm reminded that this isn't special needs parenting. This is all parenting. For every child, we have a different expectation, right? Some children are great at art. Some are wonderful singers. Some are amazing at math. And for a long time, what we did as a society was we encouraged their weaknesses so that they would strengthen them, as opposed to focusing on their strengths, which is actually a really monumental thing that a lot of super successful people can attest to, that having been the way they were raised, right? And with these children, it's amazing to see, for every child, you're just trying to have them live the best life they can. For Bruno, it was, crying to smiling. Like seeing this kid smile is all it takes to know that all of the work is worthwhile because he's happy and you can see that. So he might not be able to tell you that. He might not be able to voice it. Every body is different. Everybody has different capabilities, abilities in general. But I think that one of the really important points to note with especially Giselle's story and Bruno's story is this is such another good point to be made for why we need more than what we have now. Not just the medical program in Florida, but when we're talking, home grow, adult use, etc. A lot of the times you're going to try 20 different products. So you're going to try a handful of products until you find one that works. And then a few months later, tolerance will be obtained, or not a few months, actually, tolerance is obtained rather quickly. But another type of tolerance where maybe it stops working and you have to find a new strain, a new product. We have to go through so many different products and trials and errors. There's no way that with the costs where they are now, that if you're experimenting for yourself, for a specific diagnosis, for a loved one, a parent, and especially for a child, you're going to have to go through a ton of different products. We've been super lucky in that in the state of Florida, we have amazing people that got in early on the ground floor for these vertically integrated licenses and have worked with us and so many of the other children in the state of Florida and been so helpful. But we have to remember we're not the only ones. There are parents all over the United States and all over the world who don't have access to what they need, and medical programs are generally stifling and more expensive. And so as we move towards adult use, decrim, Biden was elected heavily, his campaign hinged on this topic, right? So we know there's going to be changes with the House passing the MORE Act, basically just showing us where we are as a country and who's voting which way and what the people of the United States want. We'll see adult use pass here in the state of Florida. We'll see the dominoes continue to fall. And as we do, we just hope that people keep in mind that even patients, even suffering parents like us who are just trying to help our suffering children, we're all asking for the same thing. Like, get the federal government's hands out of it. Let people have a little bit of freedom. I'm allowed to grow fruits and vegetables all day long. You don't see me not shopping produce at the grocery store, and every single other person in the United States. You might end up being a hobby grower, but it's not going to end the legal um, market. It's not even going to put a dent in it, to be honest. But it would allow parents like Giselle and I, and parents we work with, to at least be able to experiment a little more under the guidance and with the help of our medical professionals, in a way that doesn't become completely fiscally unrealistic for most people.
I don't know if you
And
could even
Giselle, I
see
think we're
me.
closing in on our last, yeah, a little bit. I think we're closing in on our last minute or so.
Yeah, I think we went over our minutes.
Yeah,
But also,
7:59, 1 minute.
we're okay. We're hoping that, we're hoping that the changes are being made, and we were hoping the same changes, whether it would have been, our President Trump being elected. We could still, we still fight for this. It doesn't matter whether the president is a Democrat or Republican. We try not to side with parties, because it causes a major conflict. It's the same thing,
On
religion
this
and
issue.
yes. But we just hope that the president elected, will help with our fight. I actually did meet him, and it was during the time that it was, I think it was for our governor, and it was a governor that was pro cannabis, because that's the main reason I went, and it was to speak about that. I don't know if any of my message went through to him when I met him. It was a lot of security. He carried Bruno, took a picture with him, and I'm honored to say I actually took a picture with now the new president elected. It could have been Republican or Democrat. Just the fact that I was able to be there and speak my mind, whether he listens or not, I was still there, and we spoke about the issue. And it was very little, because it wasn't, I couldn't really talk much about it. But we just hope that a lot of changes are being made that can help adults, and that it becomes, like other states, that it can be available for everyone. This is a
And
medicine
that's
that
the
we're
thing is,
talking about.
it's not about my daughter. It's not about Bruno. It's not about Dahlia. And for certain people, it's never been about us and our children. As soon as it became about our children, it became about all the children. And you can't say that unless you mean it and you stick with it. So whether it's Canna Moms fighting for the medicinal use of cannabis for our children, or Mothers that get united against the war on drugs, who have lost children to the opioid epidemic, to addiction, and overdoses, or a mother saying, because my children are born Black in America, I fear for their lives. Or Yvette down south saying, as a former prosecutor, as a Hispanic mother in the Hispanic community, I can tell you firsthand the disparity of arrest to prosecution rates. Um, you know, Open your hearts and minds to all of these stories. Everyone's just really sharing their truth, where they're coming from. And if we just start to be willing
Yeah.
to listen to our neighbors, voting on their behalf, and when we ask you to do something simple like write in to your representatives or senators on our behalf, it's
It's
really on
needed. Yeah.
everyone's behalf. It's never about our
Hmm.
children. It's about everyone. This isn't about, Dahlia. It's not about Bruno. It's about all of the children of America. It's about our country as a whole. This has been the deadliest, most dangerous war we have ever waged, and it's been on ourselves. And it's time to end it. We're in 2020, coming into 2021. If there's anything we can do to come out of this shit year, maybe this would be it. Love you, Nugtopia. Thank you, guys.
The best. Thank you, guys.
Te quiero mucho.
Te quiero mucho.
So, hi, and welcome to Cooking with Curaleaf, I am Stephanie Cronin. I work with Curaleaf. I've been with them for 3.5 years, and I will be your host. And as you can see, you will see my teammate, the lovely Alexandra Gertz, who also works with me at Curaleaf. We love to tell everyone how we are 2 of the 4 most tenured people in Florida Curaleaf, and we like to rub it in wherever we can. So thank you for joining us. So not only does the lovely Alex know so much about cannabis and is one of the most intelligent, knowledgeable people I know, she is also a graduate of the Johnson & Wales University Cooking School. So we gave you an expert on cooking. We're not just throwing somewhere at cooking for you. So I'm going to turn it over because we want to get as much cooking as we can, and I'll just be in the background giving some information as we go. So Alex, please take it away.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for joining Stephanie. We're glad to have you guys here. We're glad to be a part of the 12 days of Canna Christmas with Nugtopia. So what we're going to do, we're going to find a few easy recipes and a few easy ways to incorporate your medication with some great food. Easy to make, some what I like to call cheating recipes. You don't have to do everything from scratch. You don't have to be a professional chef. You can easily incorporate a lot of the medication that we offer at Curaleaf into some daily foods, snacks, drinks that I hope you will enjoy. A few things to start off, not everybody is an expert at cannabis. We have novice, we have experts, we have everybody in between. If you're new to this, don't worry, ask away while we're doing this. Any question is a good question. There's no bad questions in the cannabis world. I do have in front of me a few of the products I'm going to use. We have, this one is the Citradelic Sunset. This is our flower. Of course, we have always going our flat rate for flour. That's $35 for an eighth. I wish you guys could smell this. We don't have smell-o-vision yet.
I'm pretending I know what it smells like, as I have, and it smells wonderful.
They're delicious.
Beautiful.
And I actually infused, not the Citradelic Sunset, but I did catch our strawberry diesel early this week, and I made some infused butter. So you'll get to see that. Again, I wish you could smell this. When you infuse the butter, everything comes out. It's delicious. An easy way, if you're looking to do something fun for yourself, you can look up on our website. We have all of our COAs for all of our products, and you can see what terpenes are the most dominant or most present in the product you're purchasing. Not only the flower, this goes for our tinctures, we have our nano drops. So if you're looking for a specific terpene to pair with a food that you have, please go on our website. If you can't find it, give us a call. We'll help you out. It just helps with the pairing of your food. If you don't care about it, don't worry about it. It's going to do its job in the food one way or another. And
Alex, when you infuse the butter, does it change the consistency than what we're used to by just melting regular butter?
The consistency, no, it does change the color a little bit. There's some opacity. As you thin out the butter, like if you spread it on toast, which you definitely can, it's a little bit clearer. You have that opaqueness to it. But definitely you can swap out infused butter for regular butter in any recipe that requires butter, and not just butter. I did some olive oil, and this is how it looks when it's infused. You have that more of a deeper golden hue to it, a little tinge of green, not too much, but definitely you can do that. And how I infuse all my products, or most of the oils and butters that I'm using, is with the Nova Ardent Decarboxylator. This thing saves me from making a mess at home. It makes my life easier. All you need to do, it comes with this container. Inside, you load this bad boy with your flour, put the lid on, cover it, you press a button, and that thing will do its magic on its own. Once the light turns green, it's done. And that decarbs the flour for you. For anybody who's not aware, when you're infusing products, you do need to decarb the flour. So when you buy the flour as is, like this beautiful little baby from the store, if you eat this is not going to get you're not going to feel any psychoactive effects. We need to activate what's in there. So basically that is THCA. That's not going to do anything with the psychoactive for you. The minute this thing gets heated, lighted, infused with my Nova decarboxylator. You can decarb at home. Again, that's taking that THCA to THC, where we do want those psychoactive effects to make themselves present. So you can put that in the decarboxylator, you can put it in the oven, you can use a crock pot. There's plenty of different ways. Again, don't feel you need technology. It's not going to hinder you from doing anything at home. So that's what we need to come to life. And with that, the first thing we're going to use, or first recipe we're going to jump into, almost a bruschetta-ish type. I like to play with my recipes. I don't really follow the rules. They were made to be broken. So we're going to break them with this. So got some.
And I do want everyone to know that we do sell the decarboxylator at Curaleaf. So you'll see how easy it makes everything for cooking. So of course, feel free to come by and check it out.
And I did get these little cute cherub tomatoes. I already started cutting some up with some fresh garlic. We've got that in there. And this is where I like to cheat. Again, you don't have to make pesto from home. You don't even have to add pesto. You can do fresh basil. You can get some at Publix. Honestly, I got some pesto from the store. It's in a jar. I'm pretty sure if any of my chef instructors at school saw me doing this, they would cringe, but then they're here and we want yummy food fast. So we're going to add a spoon of that in here with your tomatoes and your garlic, mix it around. Right now, this does taste good just as is. I can reassure you.
I can smell the basil and the garlic.
You can smell it. You can smell my store-bought pesto.
If you don't tell anybody, we won't know. So
you don't really have to tell anybody you're doing store-bought. I'm just telling you guys so that you know how to make your life easier when you want something infused and fast. And of course, a little bit of salt for flavor. You don't have to go too heavy. And then this is where we add the magic. So the olive oil that I infused, and I wish I had brought the testing device with me. I have at home a device. We currently don't sell it, but I do recommend for those of you who are cooking more so than not with your cannabis, it's a device by the name of a T-check. It's very small. What you do is you take a few drops of any of your infused oils or butters, put it in a little slide. It goes into a machine, and within a few minutes, you have a reading, give or take 5 to 10%, on what the milligrams per teaspoon are of your infusion. So with that test, this olive oil came out to, give or take, 76 milligrams of THC per teaspoon. This is less than a full cup of olive oil, and I added a full eighth to the infusion. So what we can do, again, how light and how heavy you want to go with your infused products is up to you. This is not a one size fits all, even when it comes to infusing your food. Everybody knows their body. Everybody knows what you're looking to find relief from. So I'm not really big on needing a whole lot of this. Of course, as you're consuming infused foods, it goes from the THC, converts to hydroxy 11. Steph has a few notes on that. So while I add the olive oil in here, she's going to kind of skim on that process a little bit.
Yeah. So basically, remember, it does everything. I'm just getting my notes together. And also please be aware that there are a lot of different aspects when you're taking an edible of our different body chemistry that reacts differently, right? So we know no two people are alike. So we want to make sure, take your size, your weight, your rapid, the way you metabolize food, all of that changes from person to person. So know your body. I know for me personally, I'm a wimp. It does not take a lot to get me. I mean, I think my husband married me because I'm a cheap date because I can't drink more than one drink. And so you want to make sure if your metabolism's slow, it's going to take longer to work. Therefore, you don't want to keep taking more and more and more because you don't feel it. So you definitely would like to wait, what'd you say about it? I would say about an hour or an hour and a half before you start taking more because you haven't felt it, because you'll keep adding it. Oh my God, that looks so delicious. Some nice toasted bread. Oh my God, that's going to be amazing.
Oh, wait for it, because the toasted bread had to be here too. We can't just leave the toasted bread. Is that
some nice ciabatta bread? I love my ciabatta bread. I always buy it, cut it up, freeze it, and then I'm going to invite Alex over to cook everything for me post-COVID so we can enjoy this. But yeah, so just keep in mind, we don't want you to keep eating and eating and eating and saying, well, I don't feel anything. So make sure you give yourself a good hour or so before you take a little more. And again, go slow. You don't want to all of a sudden just pass out on the couch, because you want to enjoy the delicious food that someone or yourself has made.
Absolutely. And, I, being myself, working at Curaleaf, knowing you start low, you go slow, wait an hour. My first bad edible experience, I bought our concentrate. I was super excited. I made some Rice Krispies. They were ready to go. They looked cute. Of course, me, I'm all about sprinkles, loaded with sprinkles. I ate one. It was about a 20 milligram dose. An hour later, I'm still waiting. Nothing's happening. What's going on? Where's the party? I ate another Rice Krispie treat, and within 5 minutes, everything came crashing down all at once. It knocked me on my feet. I was laying in bed, and I could have sworn I heard people running in my house. I thought my kids were defying mom. Let's not do bedtime tonight. Let's just run through the house rampant. And all I could see was, guys, get back in bed, get back in bed. And I heard a response say, we are in bed. So at that point, I realized, okay, the Rice Krispies are working very hard. I ate too much. I should have waited. I knew better. I'm having one of these moments. I didn't know who to call. There's really no option at that point. So what I did, I said to my kids, all right, come sleep with me. I made my kids come sleep with me. And the next day I came to realize that running sound that I was hearing was the AC hitting my blinds, and they were tapping. So 40 milligrams worth of Rice Krispie treats later, after they digested, went through everything, converted to hydroxy 11, that felt like an 80 milligram dose. I am not an 80 milligram dose person. There are people out there, you need that dose. I am not that person. I do not need that dose. So again, take your time with the edibles. Right now, I only added about half a teaspoon to this mix. Let's hope for a 30 to 40 milligram THC for this whole serving. I wouldn't do this for just me. I would do a smaller amount. You can actually keep this mixture, let's say, in a jar, in a container for the next few days. The flavor builds. It will build on the second, third day. It is delicious. You can put it
It's completely infusing everything.
Yes, you can put it in your eggs. You can have this bruschetta omelet infused in the morning. Easy to add. You can add it in a grilled panini. I mean, you can add this to pasta. You can add it on top, so it will, extend for the next few days.
Just don't add it to the Rice Krispies.
I wouldn't do it in the Rice Krispies.
So just what Alex was mentioning. So remember, when you ingest something, it goes through your digestive system, right? Which means the liver is now in charge. So when the liver is in charge, it naturally converts that THC to, and I always say it wrong, the 11-hydroxy THC, which is much stronger than your regular THC. So when you smoke the flower, or if you're using a vape, it's much softer than when you're eating an edible. So your 10, 20 milligram and a vapor flower, it could now be 40, 50 milligrams, as what happened to Alex when she was eating the Rice Krispies. So that's why we say, just be careful. It's so easy when something tastes so good, you just want to eat more and eat more and eat more. And you forget that there's medicine in there. So just go slow, better safe than sorry.
And one way to avoid that, if you find a recipe that's delicious, let's say like this yummy snack right here, and you know that you're going to keep eating it because it tastes so good, make two versions. Make a medicated version and a non-medicated version. So when that kicks in,
great idea.
You are hungry, you have the munchies, or even just it tasted so good that you legitimately just want to keep eating it, not for the medication, but because the flavor is insane. Keep both versions. It's gonna come in handy. Trust me. It happens to all of us. We say, I'm gonna have this one brownie. After you eat that brownie and your body says, I need more, if you only have infused brownies, you're gonna eat that other infused brownie. I mean, we've all been there.
The only thing I would say is make sure you label correctly which plate is which.
Oh yeah. Always label your medicine. That's huge. You can print your own label. You can order labels on Amazon that say THC with an exclamation point. always write the date that you made it. You want to know what's fresh, what's been there for 3 days. What is the time length that you have on that recipe? For these tomatoes, it can go, I would say, 3-4 days before you're really not that excited to eat it. You know, you already have it infused. Again, that's why you should do a small dose or keep a small amount done, just so you don't waste not only your tomatoes, these cute little cherry tomatoes, and your garlic and your pesto, but your infused olive oil as well. You want to
So,
keep everything fresh.
Alex, so after you've made your infused olive oil, that does not go in the refrigerator,
No,
correct? It
that
stays
would
out.
be on the shelf. This jar I have in my kitchen. I keep it labeled at home, and I keep it far away. So I have standard condiments that I keep in a corner. I have my salt, my pepper, regular olive oil, a few other things, balsamic vinegar. But this stuff, anything infused that doesn't belong in the fridge, I keep it in a cabinet up high. Again, everything labeled. You want to make sure there's no accidents. Your medication is for you. You don't want anything bad to happen.
And about how long would you keep the olive oil for?
Honestly, this one I'm going on 2 to 3 months. It's still good. I check the potency every month. The potency is still there. It's just so potent that I do have to blend it with regular olive oil sometimes to avoid giving myself an 80 milligram dose,
Right.
bruschetta, you know, anything else that I'm going to use the olive oil for. I keep it low. Again, some people may have blown through this, and that's fine. Everyone's different.
Right. Awesome.
So
That looks delicious.
we're
Enjoy.
done. I'm not going to eat this right now. I don't want this to go the wrong way. So we're going to save this for another place and another time.
Awesome. So what's next on the menu?
I think next we're going to test out, well, I will explain the process behind how I make my infused jam. I did bring the jam with me so you guys can see exactly what I did. Now, if I could find where I put it, here it is. So here I have some blackberry vanilla jam. Let's get a spoon so you guys can really see what's going on here. So I did this batch this morning. It's not very gelatinous. It's not as solid as you would normally find jam
Ooh,
in
that
the
looks
store.
great.
But this stuff is magical. Look, that's a whole blackberry right there.
That
So
looks amazing.
the jam is easy. I originally wanted to find a jam recipe because I am a girl who loves.
Oh no, we lost Alex. Oh, there we go. Okay, a little technical difficulties. Thank you, the people
Sorry.
at Nugtopia, for getting that taken care of.
All right. So again, the jam, I love the nostalgia. I'm an 80s baby, so I wanted Pop-Tarts, but I wanted infused Pop-Tarts.
Ooh.
I don't want the regular ones at the store. So found an easy recipe, and it works no matter what. 4 boxes of blackberries, raspberries, you know, as long as you get 16 to 18 ounces of the berries, it can be blueberries. Get 16 ounces of your favorite berry, 2 cups of sugar, half a lemon. Put it all in a pot, let it sit there for 30 minutes. Don't even turn the stove on. Just let it sit there and soak. Then you can add vanilla bean. If you don't have near you a store that sells an actual vanilla bean, you don't have to cut it open, scrape it out. If you do, you can. It's kind of fun doing it the first time. You get to see the little granules of the vanilla bean.
Yeah.
I order mine online. I get a vanilla bean paste. Comes in a small jar. I always have it on hand. Smells delicious. Add that to the pot. After it's been marinating for about 30 minutes, turn on that pot. Get it going on a medium high. Let it sit there and simmer and do its thing. I would say 5 to 6 minutes. Once it's reaching that not super boiling point, again, it's in between medium and high, turn it down in between low and medium. You let it do its thing for another 5 minutes. This is where you can get, you know, adventurous. You can do a concentrate in RSO. You can put it in, and as soon as you drop it, just turn it off, start stirring in with a whisk, get that jam going, let it sit. Now, for incorporating THC or cannabis in any of these forms, normally you need a fat, so it binds better. I've done it without adding anything, and it comes out great. You can add less than powder. That just helps it bind together. It helps the whole process. You can easily find that on Amazon. I'm sure they sell it in other stores.
Yep.
Some health food stores do sell it. I think I've seen it at Whole Foods also. Don't quote me on that, but they do have it there. So with that, once your jam has set overnight, what you will need.
So Alex, so after you make everything, you turn it off, you add a little bit of your concentrate, tincture, whatever it is, and then you just because I know you're not supposed to cook while it's heat
Correct.
when things are heated and put in because it'll overheat the THC. So then you just let it sit all together and just let it blend throughout the night.
Let it whisk together, whisk it in. I would say about 1 to 2 hours post when you have it off and it's sitting there. Don't keep whisking it. You don't need to. Just as soon as you turn off the stove, you pop in your RSO, your concentrate, your distillate. You whisk it in, you let it sit, and you let it cool. From there, you can put it into a mason jar, whatever container you have, and let it rest overnight in the fridge. The next day, you will have that jam texture. You will have it there. And what I have here in front of me, this is about half of a pie crust. Again, I cheated because
you aren't supposed to tell anybody.
Time is of the essence when you want something yummy. So you can go to any store, you can go to a Publix, Winn-Dixie, Aldi's, Target, anywhere that sells refrigerator pie crust. Get one. Roll it out. Now your Pop-Tart can be whatever size you want it to be. Just keep in mind the actual process of putting it in your oven to bake it. I actually tried it out for the first time today in an air fryer. I had a bake button. I tried it. It worked. So fun adventure for me. If it would not have worked, that would not have been exciting. So
air fryers are amazing, by the way.
The air fryer has saved my day multiple times.
Yep.
Less electricity used than my stove. So my poor stove is being neglected at the moment, or the oven, I should say.
That's okay, because even though we're baking and cooking, we still are into total health and wellness and overall well-being. So that's one of our goals at Curaleaf. So cooking healthy is always a benefit.
And this Pop-Tart is not healthy. It is healthy in the fact that it has fruits in it, and that's where it stops.
But that's good. But at least we've got some vegetables, some fruit, some of the major food groups. It's perfect.
Two rectangles, hit or miss. Again, guys, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to be a professional. Lay them out on the counter. You can add as much or as little of the jam as you want. I personally like mine filled. I like taking a bite, getting the jam, getting the blackberries all in there. And again,
about how many milligrams do you think are in, let's say, a teaspoon? Do you have any idea?
So again, this all boils down to how much you want to put in your mixture. If you know that you're going to fly through this jam and you want it to have a heavy dose, you can add a whole syringe of RSO, concentrate, distillate, whatever you want. If you really don't want it to pack a punch and you want something light to make you feel a little bit nice, let's say, not only the jam can be in Pop-Tarts, it can go in your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Yeah. Again, I'm a girl of nostalgia. That PBJ is a clutch sandwich. You can never go wrong with a PBJ. Nope. If you're allergic to peanuts, you can always try an alternative. They have sun butter nowadays, almond butter, cashew butter. You have options. So let's say if we do a whole syringe of RSO in this jam, you've got a lot happening. So yeah, it can be 10, 20, 30 milligrams, depending on,
how much you put in.
I did 3 teaspoons in this one. So those 3 teaspoons, that could easily be 30, 40, 50 milligrams in the one Pop-Tart, maybe less, just because I filled this thing to the top. Right. So it can go a long way. Now, once you get to this point, you added a few teaspoons of the jam inside, you press down on the edges. You would bake this, if you're doing the air fryer like I did today, it was about a 5-minute run, not hard. And it's a single serve. If you only want one, the rest of your pie crust, put it in a Ziploc and freeze it. You can unfreeze it at any time and reuse it.
Right.
If you're baking in a conventional oven, let's say at 350, again, no more than 5-6 minutes. These things toast fast. If it happens to spill out of the edges, that's fine. Yeah. Put a silicone mat under, get some parchment paper so you don't destroy your pan or your oven on the bottom. That spillage is great. It ends up getting harder on the crust. And to show you my little experiment from today in the air fryer, this is what we ended up with.
I was wondering if you put sprinkles on it because I knew you had to put the sprinkles on it. It looks
Sprinkles go on
awesome.
everything.
That
Sprinkles go
looks
on
amazing.
everything, and you can see on the bottom edges where it's filled out.
Yep.
It is delicious. This thing is great. I cheated again, and instead of putting frosting, I actually added some pink. Well, it was white chocolate, but I made it pink. And the sprinkles actually have nerds in them. So you get like this tangy, crunchy
Wow.
candy in your infused Pop-Tart with the raspberry, blackberry, vanilla bean jam. This thing is an explosion of flavors. Beyond the flavors, you get the medication explosion as well.
It looks amazing. And I love the crispy. I'm a crispy girl. Like I like take the bottom of every pan and all the crispies, I pile them up and eat them in a spoon. If it doesn't crunch, I'm not happy. So those ends look amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. So another experiment that I took on today, it worked out very well. And let's see if we can get what I used. So,
and while you're putting that together, so real quickly, just so I'm going to give you a little break while you're getting some things together. So what's the difference between buying something or homemade, right? So basically, when you get an edible at the dispensary, because we have to follow the DOH guidelines, all the products that we're getting. And everything that we're making has to be of the highest of standards. So that's one benefit of getting at a dispensary, but it's also a benefit of making sure you get your medication as a patient at the dispensary when you take it home and make it. So you know that you're getting the purest, safest, best products that you can get. Also, we make sure everything has to be precisely dosed. So if you get one of our nano chews or one of our classic chews, you know exactly if they're 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams. And of course, we have the third-party testing. So again, whether you buy the edible with us or you make it at home like Alex is doing, but make sure you get your product. If you qualify to be a patient from a dispensary such as Curaleaf, because it's safe, it's clean, it's the best quality, and you know what your dose is. And also, while Alex is doing that, some information she gave me, because trust me, you don't want me baking for you or actually cooking for you. Although my husband will tell you I'm a really good cook, that's because he knows better. But you basically cook in an oven-proof dish when you're decarboxylating. I think, Alex, you said about 250 degrees for about 20 minutes, correct?
I would even take it a little bit longer sometimes, low and slow. Again, like eating edibles with infusing your flour, you don't want to rush it. You don't want to crisp the flour along the way. You want it to remain intact while everything is being activated. And then it is better to decarb before infusing it. Some people throw it into the brownies, and that's okay. But if you take the time to decarb your flour first, you will end up with a solid, potent product. You'll get more out of the infusion process.
Great. Awesome. So what do we got going now?
So I'm sure everybody by this point in time has seen on Instagram, Pinterest, whatever outlet you use, these infamous hot chocolate bombs.
Yes.
So hot chocolate bombs.
Especially during Christmas.
Especially during Christmas, even though I enjoy hot chocolate year round.
Yes.
So you have, looks like a bath bomb.
Oh, wow. It looks fake. It looks so amazing.
It looks delicious is what it looks like.
Yeah.
So with that, I got from the store some candy melts. So you'll see, if you go to Walmart, they have this aisle next to normally all the party stuff that has these bags of little round meltable chocolates. They come in a plethora of colors.
Yes.
Any color, and they have chocolate molds. Well, I got some of that. I decided to be festive with pink. And when you melt this, I normally do 20 to 30 second intervals. You can do whatever amount you want to do. If you're doing just a single serve, a few of those chips is fine, maybe 10 to 15 of those round pieces. You can add the whole bag if you're doing a long-term batch and you want to pop them in the freezer so you have it for future use. This, in between those intervals, I will add infused vegetable oil. So you take your infused vegetable oil and you mix it in the chocolate. It doesn't change the consistency. It doesn't prevent it from hardening, tempering, anything. And it actually helps with the consistency of this. So we're infusing the chocolate itself. And then I got this little mold online at Amazon. It's for
Nice.
those half spheres. So, you know, you can get with the pair 4 of the chocolate bombs out of this mold. All you need to do is take a teaspoon. Again, use a microwave safe dish. I choose my Tupperware. This bad boy gets clean, nothing remains on it. It's good for the next use. So take your chocolate, melted, put it in the sphere. And all you need to do is start in the middle and brush your way out. You want to make sure every edge of that is covered. If you need to add more, you add more. So that one we need to add a little bit more.
And I'm glad you're using Tupperware, because now I feel like we're having a Tupperware party at the same time.
We can do that too. That's fine. Everybody needs Tupperware.
Right?
So you'll cover it as such. And it doesn't need to be fancy. This is the inside. The outside is going to be smooth as butter. You fill up your whole mold, place it in the fridge, let it sit for a good 10-15 minutes. You do want it to harden. As you take it out, you'll fill one side with a hot cocoa mix. Again, it doesn't have to be anything specific. You can just add your teaspoons. If this is too small for you, you can get a bigger size mold. They have jumbo ones. I just don't want to OD on sugar while I'm making my hot chocolate.
Right.
And again, I like my edibles, my infusions to be on a lower scale of potency. This, again, with your chocolate, depending on how much oil you use, if it's coming from the super potent olive oil, you can add 2 teaspoons and each one is going to be explosive with milligrams.
Yeah.
So try to keep in mind when you're making it, what you're making, the size of it. That should help guide you. So inside each of these, I added the hot cocoa mix to one side. The other side has about 5 to 6 marshmallows. Once you put those 2 halves together, what I'll do is I'll roll it in the chocolate on the edges. You'll see that here. They're not perfect, but guess what? Nobody's going to care because it's going in your hot chocolate. It's going to do its magic. And I think I just got my milk warm enough, so we're going to test one out.
So you kind of paste them together with the extra chocolate, and then when you put them in the fridge, it sticks it together, right?
That extra chocolate around the edges is your glue. It's going to bind it together. It's going to keep its shape. So right now we're going to pop one in here and let's see how long it takes for it to do what it's supposed to do.
Oh, wow. Drum roll.
Let's see. Is it working? It's rolling around. It looks nice. And now it's completely covered in foam. My hot chocolate is now pink hot chocolate.
Nice.
So let's see. There. Once it opens, you get all your little cute marshmallows.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And you've got hot chocolate.
That was, I'm going closer, like I can see it better. But it looks amazing. Wow.
It smells good. I'm pretty sure it tastes good. And again, those hot chocolate bombs, you can freeze them. You can keep them year round.
Yeah.
You can theme them. You can make them for New Year's Eve. You can make it for your birthday. If you want something extra special, there you go. Super easy to make. Very fun, very colorful. Doesn't take a lot. And of course, I don't know if you noticed, Stephanie, but my sprinkles were little gingerbread men.
No, I did. Oh my God, so cute. No, I did not notice them. I told you we had a real chef here, didn't I, ladies and gentlemen? And we actually have a recipe on our website at curaleaf.com. We have some recipes there. And we do have these little chocolate truffle balls that I actually did make. And they were similar to that, where it's cream cheese and Oreos, and you mix everything together. And then just like you did with your chocolate, you infuse the chocolate with some RSO after you've melted it, and you roll it. You roll the balls in the white chocolate, put some sprinkles on it, put it in the fridge. It stays in the refrigerator for a couple months, or you can put them in the freezer and take them out as you wish.
And so our next project, again, 80s child, 80s baby, girl of nostalgia, cosmic brownies. Cosmic brownies are like it for me. I don't care how fancy your food needs to be, but cosmic brownies are always legit. Cosmic brownies, we can do 2 ways.
And by the way, I'd like to say I'm a kid of the 80s too, but I'd be lying.
We can go with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So again, time is of the essence. You don't have to make brownies from scratch. Got some brownie mix from the store. Stop by your local Curaleaf. Get some of this deliciousness for a flat $35.
Nice.
Mix it with your infused butter. Of course, the instructions will tell you. If it says oil, you can do infused oil. If it says butter, you can do butter. Even if it says oil, you can do butter. Whatever you have, whatever you've made, you can use it. Bake them in the oven. But of course, for cosmic brownies, we need these magical rainbow chips. And you end up not only from the box, but that magical layer of chocolate that goes on top of cosmic brownies. That's a ganache. You need heavy cream and chocolate. You whip up the heavy cream, you get it nice and hot, mix it in with the chocolate, pour it over the brownies once they're done being baked. Let it sit for a good hour, 2 hours in the fridge. It really sets, and you end up with these.
Those look amazing. So basically the only thing we didn't have sprinkles on was the bruschetta. Maybe you could make some basil sprinkles.
That might be a thing, and I will look into it because sprinkles are magical. Now, cosmic brownies, I can't eat because now, once you get older and you're an adult and you're adulting, things come with that. Such as
I wouldn't know from that, but go ahead.
Well, I'm an adult, unfortunately, and I'm now allergic to dairy. It rains on my parade. I love cheese. I love dairy. I love all of it. Now I can't do that. So for me, I need to look up alternative methods and ways that I can enjoy cosmic brownies without needing a lot of Benadryl to survive the bite that I want to take. We're going to do plant-based cosmic brownies.
Awesome.
We have
a lot of people, even if they aren't allergic, are going a lot of plant-based anyway and vegan. So it's a great alternative way.
It's a great alternative. You have options. You're not limited to just veggies and water. There are options, people. There's so many options for plant-based foods, snacks, beverages. Everything is out there. It does take a little bit more time, but in the end, it is 100% worth it.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Here we have 1 cup of pitted dates. So you're saying, where in the world do I get that? You can get these anywhere. You can go to Target, Publix. I went to Aldi's, and this bag of pitted dates, normally at any other store, $7, $8, it was $3 and change. So you don't even have to break the bank to do a healthy alternative to something that tastes amazing. So what we're going to do as I go through the ingredients, I'm going to add it to my food processor. This is the cup of dates. So the dates, to help get that texture, that chewy, yummy texture from a brownie, put them in that bowl, add some hot water, and let them soak. You can soak them for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. They're going to release this wonderful sweetness in the water. Discard the water. Sounds horrible, but discard it. We want these to do what they need to do. Then we're going to take, let's say, about half a cup of cashews. Doesn't have to be a fancy brand. They can come from anywhere.
And while you're doing that, interesting, I have made brownies, believe it or not, with black beans. Black beans and cocoa.
Black beans and sweet potatoes.
Yeah, they're really, really good.
So this next ingredient is a super special ingredient. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. It's called Joy. There we go. So Joy comes, I believe, in almond and cashew. Yeah. And this is an alternative to milk. So this, honestly, let me get a spoon so you guys can see the texture. It's a cashew nut base, non-GMO, kosher, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free. This stuff will last on your shelves for 18 months. Mm-hmm. What is this for? Well, you can add a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, 5 teaspoons to water, put it in your blender, and you automatically have cashew milk. If you get the almond version, you get almond milk. I can't tell you how many times we've run out of milk or coffee creamer or something in my house. I have this, and it saves the day. So we're going to add maybe a generous teaspoon of this to our brownies. Again, you get that cashew, that nutty flavor. This adds a creaminess that you're not going to find in a lot of places.
And Alex actually told me about it at the start of COVID when everyone was afraid you couldn't go to the store or stores were running out of things. And she told me about it because I only use almond milk. And it's amazing. And it's like you said, it's a lifesaver when you can't get out, and it's right there and lasts such a long time.
Yep. So even during hurricane season, we keep that on hand.
Yeah.
We sometimes order extra because we're Florida, we're special. Hurricanes like us. In case it comes, we're prepared, and you don't have to worry about the milk powder going bad. This stuff was good on your shelf for 18 months. So I added a generous teaspoon of that. We're gonna add a little bit of maple syrup. This is the vanilla bean paste I was telling you guys about. Let's see if we can get another spoon in here so you guys can see how this comes out. Let's see if that's good enough. So I don't know if you can tell on the back of the spoon, you see a little bit of that vanilla bean.
Yep.
So we're gonna add a little bit of that in here.
They look like little ants in there.
They look like little ants. They don't taste like little ants.
No.
They taste really good. And let's see. I think we've got a good blend of everything in there.
That looks good just like that.
I'm going to take this over here. I'm going to process it, bring it back, press it down. You guys are going to see how we end up with some yummy cosmic brownies, dairy-free.
Nice. So while Alex is doing that, I'm going to give you guys just a little bit information on the time and duration. So when you're having edibles, it depends on the edible, right? So there's a couple of different ways. If it's an edible like a candy that dissolves mostly in your mouth, that has more of a sublingual effect. So it's going to dissolve into the mucosis of your mouth and get into your bloodstream. So it's going to work pretty quickly. It could work within 15 minutes. So anything that turns into a sublingual, you want to be careful. And you don't want, in about a half hour to 45 minutes, if you don't have any effect, maybe take a little bit more, but it's going to be a more rapid onset. Also, if it's a nanotechnology, where in case anyone's not familiar, the nanotechnology is where the molecules which are really in the oil are usually very big and do not mix well. It's grounded up where it's so tiny that it becomes water soluble and mixes really well. And that gets ingested much quicker. And your onset could be 15, maybe 30 minutes. Again, depending on each person's body chemistry. Whereas if you have an ingestible edible where it goes through your digestive system into your liver, that's where you're looking at it could be an hour to an hour and a half before you're feeling the effect. And then the peak effect could be an hour later. So just be cognizant of what type of edible you're eating so you know what onset you're looking at and duration so you don't overdo it. Now I'll give it back to Alex and have the fun part.
So I processed what we already had inside. You can take a look. Looks fun, looks interesting, but we're not quite there yet.
It looks like the caramel turtles a little bit, where you have the nuts and the chocolate and the marshmallow, right?
So here you're going to see two forms of coconut oil. The yellower, greener one is the infused. The white one has not been infused.
Right.
I like to mix both, again, because I add a full 1/8 of mine to the coconut oil when I infuse it. Super potent. I don't want to blast off to the moon. Some people may, but I like to stay a little bit closer to earth when I'm infusing my food. So we're going to add that.
Did you use an RSO for that as well?
You can use an RSO. You can use butter. You can use coconut oil. You have plenty of options. You can do it different ways. Again, it's up to you what you prefer. Cosmic brownies traditionally don't have cinnamon. I'm adding cinnamon, something I like to do.
I love cinnamon. It makes everything taste and smell good.
And what's a cosmic brownie without our
cacao powder?
Cacao powder. So I'm going to add a very, very generous tablespoon of this. Probably a little bit more.
I was going to say, you could do a little bit more. That's okay.
We can do a little bit more. And let's see, I don't know if it's really as, yeah, it is creamy the way I want it. So I'm gonna go back to blending and I will be right back.
Okay. So basically also a couple of other factors to remember, how quickly you start to feel the effects, just things to, some things to take into consideration is, usually it tends to take longer in women than men because women's digestive system usually, or metabolism is a little slower. So you take into consideration your sex, your weight, your rate of metabolism, your diet. So you have to take a lot of factors into account. Plus, again, as we said, what type of edible are you ingesting for your duration, for your onset, your peak onset, and the duration that it will last.
All right, so clear up everything I have here. This does not require a huge pan. This was what I had, so we're gonna make it work now so you guys can see after we added our oils, the cacao powder. This stuff is yummy.
When you smell it, do you smell any cannabis?
You don't. You don't. And again, we're not even going to bake this. This is a no bake process. So you're just going to have it as is. There is a bit of an aftertaste. I enjoy it. The taste is like the smell of cannabis. So you're tasting the smell. If that makes any sense. If it doesn't make sense. It tastes really good.
And most people who are, who are our patients and using cannabis, most don't mind that. They kind of look forward to it. And when they're baking, yeah, you want the sweetness or the sour or the tart or whatever. But sometimes you also want to know there's a little bit of cannabis in there as well.
So I'm going to spread this out. And again, it didn't take up the whole pan. This is a small batch. So that's what you have. Now, if you wanted to mimic that layer of chocolate frosting on top, a vegan plant-based ganache that you could do, that would be your coconut oil, a small, maybe half a teaspoon of maple syrup. You can use agave syrup. And again, another tablespoon of the cacao powder. You're gonna mix that, lather it on top, add our, and I'm going to do this because sprinkles are everything.
You have to.
You're going to take those candy rainbow chips, sprinkle them on top. Once you add that frosting, I'm going to add more. Guilty. And pat them down so they don't run away. Put that down there. And you have your plant-based cosmic brownies. Now, right now they look gooey. If you try to take it out, it's gonna be a mush. Let it sit in the fridge. The longer you let it sit, the better you'll be able to cut out a piece and enjoy it. Again, you don't have to do plant-based. You can do double chocolate premium brownie mix in a box. It's going to be amazing.
Now the plant-based though looked amazing and it's a great alternative. So, for people who have food sensitivities and other things, that doesn't mean that you can't make delicious tasting things at the same time.
And I have not infused, but regular sweet potato brownies. I have tricked my kids and they did not know the difference between the sweet potato brownies to the regular brownies. So if you're looking for a lifestyle change, if you're looking to cut back on the sugar that you're consuming, anyone in your house or family, friends are consuming, you can try them out. There's no harm in trying out a plant-based recipe.
Exactly. And there's so many good things out there now because so many people are changing their way that they're eating.
Absolutely.
And again, even with cannabis, and it's still that whole lifestyle change, that whole wellness, and just your quality of life through health, nutrition, fitness. It's just the whole balance of everything.
And so my recipes, we've gone through. One thing I do want to touch on, which I kind of touched on in the beginning, is pairing your food with your medication. So, you're on the go. You don't have time to sit here, make hot chocolate bombs, a bruschetta, plant-based cosmic brownies. You can find ways to pair your foods with your medication. So most of you should know, if you don't already know, we launched THC nano drops. So these nano drops.
They are so incredibly easy to use.
Like this. These are easy to use, fast acting. This entire bottle has 150 milligrams of THC. Now, faster onset. Let's say you're going to take these drops, place them under your tongue, chase it with water. That's fine. You can do that. Or you can think about how you're pairing. This is lime nano drops. This is an acai bowl. Found it in the frozen section of a grocery store. This thing is good. It tastes great. You can take this and take this after, or vice versa. You can do whichever way you want. But, you know, it does come with good knowledge, good intention to read up on your medication. We are patients. We go to Walgreens. We want to know what's in that bottle of Tylenol, Motrin. You read the label. Our label, our COA doesn't fit here. Again, go on our website. You can look into it. Are there certain terpenes that help you feel a certain way? You want to pair it with your food. You can pair anything. You know, those THC nano drops, these don't only come in lime. I also have unflavored. So if you happen to want to pair that with your coffee in the morning, you're going to take your nano drops, you're heading out the door, you grab your coffee, it's unflavored. You're not going to ruin anything. So it's not like when you brush your teeth and you drink orange juice and you have this weird thing happening. That's not exciting. You want to make it exciting. So we also have grapefruit. There's a mixture of flavors. There may be some new flavors on the horizon that I cannot share right now, but they are there on the horizon. So, you know, focus on what works for you. If you are making your bruschetta, you don't want to infuse olive oil, you don't have to. We have a CBD tincture that you can use. The tincture you're going to consume orally, you're just as good to go with using this.
And I know people who take who don't have a lot of time, and they'll just take a cracker or toast and either take a little tincture or RSO, rub it on there, or even like if you're having a peanut butter sandwich, take whatever your normal dose is, kind of spread it on top of your regular peanut butter, put your jelly and toast and eat away. And it's not going to be as delicious as your recipes, but it's a quick and easy way of getting your medicine and eating it too.
Yep, absolutely.
And some of the benefits of edibles are basically, you know, first of all, there's no respiratory risks, right? Because we're not inhaling anything. So people who have trouble with that or afraid of that, you don't have to worry about that. The longer duration of not so much the sublinguals or the nano, but your regular ingestibles are definitely going to last longer than any inhalation methods. It could last up to 4 or 5 hours, possibly, depending on your metabolism. And they're discreet. You can make one of Alex's little delicious balls or bruschetta, take it with you. Nobody knows what you're doing or what you're having. So they're very easily accessible. They're discreet. So they have a lot of benefits as well, besides tasting good.
And I mean, honestly, infusing with our flower, this is exciting. Like, you get to take this, make it a part of something that you create, and then you get to consume it. It's great. Again, I wish you guys could smell this, but right now we don't have the smell-o-vision. So go to your local dispensary, go online to our website, get your flower somehow. This stuff is delicious. And again, you can start pairing your foods. You can make magic in the kitchen. It's not hard. Look up recipes. You know, if you're into barbecue, you can find a way to infuse your barbecue sauce. You can infuse honey for your tea.
Yep.
The possibilities are endless. It is out there. And if you can't find any, I mean, Pinterest should have it all at this point.
And YouTube, you can find a lot of videos on YouTube.
We have a blog too. We have blogs with recipes. These people pump out recipes like there's no tomorrow. I mean, there was something on there the other day that had waffles, and I had to like shut the website so I wouldn't get up in the middle of the night and make these infused waffles, because, you know, just someone else waking up to my midnight waffle mess is not exciting. But we do have options. So, I mean, they're there. And I think before we let you guys go, remember that half sphere we did with the chocolate to show you once you pop it out how easy this is.
Wow, that looks so cool.
You just need.
It looks like the container the Play-Doh used to come in. Like the egg.
It doesn't smell like Play-Doh. It smells really.
No, I know.
So again, You only need 2 of these. And you use that extra glue to glue the edges together with your hot chocolate powder, your marshmallows, and you saw the magic that happened in that mug. It's awesome. And it's infused. It doesn't get any better than that.
And for everybody watching, just so you know, we did a special promotion for anybody as part of the 12 days of Canna Christmas, where you can go to any Curaleaf or go online and order, and a buy one, get one 50% off. There's some mild restrictions, but please feel free to visit our website, call the store. We'd love to see you there. And also, if you are a new patient to us and you've never been to a Curaleaf, your first order, you get 50% off. So please don't walk, run to your nearest Curaleaf, get some amazing products and try some of these great recipes or create your own. We are really thrilled to have been here, and we love working with Nugtopia. Love Kyle, they're great people, and we're proud to do anything we can to help others in the cannabis industry, such as Cannamoms. Always great to give back. So many people are in need, so we're really proud to be a part of this. Do we have any more recipes, Alex?
I think we're done for the night.
All right, so Alex can go home and have a party. Unfortunately, I was not invited. But
it's not me, it's COVID. So
I know, but next year this time I will be with her in person, and we're going to do this together. And I will be happy to give her the measuring cup, because that's about as much as she's going to want me to do in the kitchen. But we thank you guys for joining us. We thank you for letting us be a part of your day. We wish you a happy, healthy, and safe holiday season. And we definitely want you to come visit us at a Curaleaf. We'd love to see you.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your night.
Thank you, everyone. Be well. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Job. Bye.
Is this thing on? Of course it on. Of course it on. Of course it's on. Learn to enunciate, Gabe Osborne. Who do you think you are? Who do you guys think you are? Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We are back. We're on the air. Barely. How's everyone doing? Let me hear you say hey in the comments right now. Make sure to say what's up. Say, hey, Mr. Osborne. Make sure to spell it with a Z. That's right. O-Z-B-O-U-R-N-E. That's how you spell it. Ganja Beach. Find your beach. Happy holidays from Shelby. Gabby saying, hey, Gabe. And I'm saying, what's up, Gabby? How you doing, girl? Guys, we had an amazing show today. I mean, it was kind of crazy. There was things happening all over the place. Like beside myself. Anyway, so I would like to thank we'd like to thank Curaleaf. You know, thanks for joining us and doing that awesome episode. I'm gonna have to make those chocolate bombs for sure. Those hot chocolate bombs. Incredible. Totally up my alley. I'm totally going to be doing that. All right. Well, tomorrow we have an action-packed day. We have glass blowers. I don't know if you guys saw it earlier in the first day of the 12 days of Canna Christmas. We had a glass blowing competition. And tomorrow, we're going to find out who the winner is. We had 5 blowers, and they're out there, and they're making stuff and blowing glass and putting things in fire, and I'm loving it. Can't wait to see what they came up with, and maybe we can buy one of those. I don't know how that works, but I'll tell you what I do know how it works is tomorrow we're going to be playing a game called Who Wants to Be a Big Wiener? That's right, I said wiener. But who wants to be a big wiener? I know I do. And we got all kinds of awesome things that we're giving away. We have the Invincible. I know you guys saw that episode where we talked about the Invincible, and it has an Invincible. It's a metal down stem and bowl. It's valued at $67. That does not include the shipping. And yeah, that could be yours tomorrow if you are here and win and become the biggest wiener. We also have a bong. That's right, a bong. Not a little pipe, not a little down stem in a bowl. No, you're gonna get an entire bong. Fierier Carami. I think that's what it means. I think it's French. Fierier Carami. Oh, chocolat bleu. That is a bong valued at $175. I think if you took all my bongs and you added them together, they wouldn't add up to $175. I'm going to try to win that bong. I can't win the bong because I'm the one giving it away. That's right. And let's see, we got the Cushness coloring book. That's right. Get elevated on a coloring book. Go ahead, spark up a joint, smoke it up, and have the Cushness. Was it Cushness? Cushness. The Cushness coloring book. It's a coloring book valued at $25. And what do we have? We have a Grateful Veterans 2001 calendar valued at $25. We have Primal Healing CBD salve and lip balm valued at $57. Get your CBD salves and lip balm. Get it here. And of course, Graham is going to give away 2 sets of Graham printed edition. And it's valued at $50. Very, very, very exciting. Lots of things happening tomorrow. Incredible. If you guys haven't heard, we're also doing an auction tomorrow. That's right. Nugtopia is throwing an auction. Did you hear about this? Apparently, Kyle drove out to like California and like met up with Tommy Chong, the man. And he was like, yeah, man, no problem. I'll sign that for you. It's for a good cause. Cool. And he like signed it. He signed a piece of history. Be a part of history. You want to get in on that first day with the moon. See, I can't speak. I'm not even high yet. Maybe that's the problem. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to bear with me 1 second. Yep. The dyslexia is slowly leaving me. So yeah, be there with Tommy. Be there with us, and you might be able to win. It's not a win. You're gonna play the winner of the auction. That's right. You're gonna win it anyway. Tommy Chung, get his signature. It's an awesome print with his name on it, and his signature, his John Hancock. It's awesome. And there's also going to be 2 other artwork that they're also going to be selling. And not selling. They're going to auction it off. All right. And so, yeah. Thank you, Curaleaf. They just announced that they're doing a buy one, get one 50% off deals on select items. And to make sure that you just let them know that you are a part of the 12 days of Canna Christmas. That's right. That's exactly right. Give away that green hat swag. Oh, yeah. And let's not forget, you got to go to Ganja Beach Media. All right. It's a very special website. Why is it so special? That is where Chef Mary has got her Ganja Beach cooking book. That's right. 50 recipes. $50 plus. I'm going to add the plus because I believe that she's putting in a bunch of extra stuff. And if you know Chef Mary, well, you already know. And if you don't know, you're going to find out. That's right. What else? That's it. That's basically everything that's going on tomorrow. So you want to be here for the giveaways. Who wants to be a big wiener? I know you do. And you want to make sure to go to Curaleaf to get your buy one, get one 50% off, because why not? Take advantage. You were here. You showed up. You were hanging out with us. Go to Curaleaf. Go get the buy one, get one 50% off. And make sure you get the cookbook. So thank you, Curaleaf. Thank you, cookbook. Thank you, Graham. Who wants to be a big wiener? I think I already asked that. Still, I get no response. I get nothing. All right. Well, we will see you guys tomorrow. This is Gabe Osborne signing out. Have a good night. Sleep well. Wake up healthy. And smoke on. Smoke on, brother man. Smoke on, my sisters too. Oh, yeah. Good night. Good night, Florida.